Esquire backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. It's a holiday week, and 365 Sports today takes you up until 6 o'clock. Brett McMurphy, one of the great covers college football, will join us today at 3:30. We also have 3 segments on Big 12 programs, Utah, K-State, and also UCF, who unveiled their stadium, the name that's ingrained in the stadium. All that news and more in a moment. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoke, we are very appreciative that you're here with us today. And because of what Andrew showed us a couple of days ago, if you are watching us, and we appreciate it if you are, please, if you have not subscribed, please do. 65% of our audience, we discovered, had not yet subscribed to our channel. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, it doesn't take long. Doesn't cost you anything. It's just subscribing to our channel. Now, I got to say this to start the show with Craig and Paul and our opening topic about another NCAA ruling. It's not a change, but I guess it is, and it's an addition. Here is Ross Dellinger with 3 consecutive tweets. There's a new one-time transfer portal window. NCAA Committee on Legislative Relief has issued a waiver to permit athletes whose schools place a designated student athlete list to enter the portal starting July 7th through August 5th. July 7th is Monday. DSAs are grandfathered in athletes exempt from roster limits. Then he follows up with this. There is no limit on how many athletes a school can designate as a DSA. Deadline to submit them is on Sunday, July 6th. Then we go to this from Ross Dellinger, and there's a little bit more there. Another important point. Designating an athlete as a DSA is entirely at the school's discretion, not the athlete's choice, and schools have agreed to act in good faith. This was part of the House settlement negotiations to revisions of the roster limit concept. Brett McMurphy said if we bring up any of this when he's on today at 3:30, he's going to hang up on us.
Yeah, we can talk about the upcoming season and what his actual job is going to be there. So he didn't say realignment, so that's good because we've got some Pac-12 questions I'm sure we got to ask him. Did he say realignment? You know that image that you can send somebody when it's that guy that was backing into the bushes?
Homer Simpson.
Yeah, Homer. I don't know. I'll have to reach out to him on that. But no, this is for the people who got caught up in the roster limit thing that the NCAA didn't include in their part of the revisions to the House settlement. Then they did, and so grandfathered in. So all these people who may not have or don't have a roster spot can go in the transfer portal between July 7th next week and then August 15th and try and find a place to go play. Best of luck to them. The thing that really sucks about this is a lot of these people, the one place that they're probably going to be able to would be on a roster is the place where they are, because every walk-on kind of has a unique story, and if they're DSAs, as they're going to be called here, then it's going to be really tough because there's people who have trouble getting out of the portal all the time. So I don't know how many of these people will actually find new homes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is really that big of a deal. Yeah. It's not really.
No, it's not a huge deal, but it's just part of college.
I'm just saying, for those who are not familiar with the story, I'm just saying it's not that really big of a deal. It's not some massive game-changing thing that's occurring today. But I know when Ross tweets, it typically is, and so at this point these days, I'm sort of leery whenever he tweets something out because it's like, all right, what's changing now? What's going to be different than it was yesterday? And this is basically for those casualties of the roster limits. And with the House settlement, the hard cap that they were going to have, a lot of people prematurely went and cut athletes or told them to go and look elsewhere, thinking they would have to be under this hard cap. And then, it turned into a situation where you had I was trying to think of where I saw the best way it was described is these are for roster spots that were lost due to the change. And so these DSAs are getting grandfathered in and won't count against that hard cap. So this is for those walk-ons and those casualties of the hard cap that kind of got screwed over by the limits that were going to be put in place. So, this is actually, I think, a good thing maybe in that way for those types of players. But I saw Matt Zenitz talk about this, and he said, I don't expect this is going to result in any like major names or anything like that. This is for basically the walk-ons who were, again, going to be, I guess, casualties of the hard cap. So that's the way I understand it. It's like when you read, it's very confusing. I don't know about you guys, but it took me like a couple times to read it and then have to go read a couple explanations to understand exactly what this means. But it doesn't really change a whole lot unless you're a walk-on whose roster spot was up against it, and now you have an opportunity to go and try to find another place to play. And most of these players will have to go find a lower level place to play, which might be better for them in the long run because they'll actually play or play more. But if you were hoping to be a walk-on at Nebraska, that kind of a thing, then, this whole thing's going to potentially have a big effect on you. But I think this is a good thing, but not a really big thing in the grand scheme of things.
If you'll remember, both, especially Chris Kleiman, he was very vocal about this because K-State, not that they're the only school, but a lot of schools that rely on getting those walk-ons into the program, and some of them have turned out to be All-Americans and played in the NFL. But, this is just another part of it. Here's what I thought. It's another ruling. It's yet and by the way, how quickly will an attorney line up if, in fact, this doesn't work out too well?
Well, I mean, that's billable hours is the lifeblood of the legal system for the NCAA. I mean, look, if personal injury law went away tomorrow, you can still sue the NCAA and make it.
Yeah, and win. They would settle.
So
that's also something. And I don't want to get we're trying to stay away from some of the legal stuff, but it's part of at least a question on this right here.
Yeah, I think though this is more preemptive to that, so that these,
no, it's more reactive because people started cutting a bunch of players because they felt they had to get under a roster limit, and then now this is.
Well, I guess it's preemptive to get in front of the lawsuit. Like I would say, so now, we did that. They cut it because we didn't do this right. We didn't time it out well enough, and so here you go. Here's our solution. They can get in the portal if they need to.
By the way, he also just said, "I'm so sick of that blank." Brett McMurphy's in a great mood for us. Now, there's an article yesterday that came out from Pat Forty. Sam Levitt is ready to make Arizona State more than a one-hit wonder. It is a great article, and it's about kind of how he's gotten himself into this position, how competitive they are. Couple of the quotes in the article, and some of the quotes came from his mother about how he grew up. I think it was 4 brothers or 4 kids, and even a sister that, he had to find, you hear about how many children or a lot of people in a family had to fight for the food at the dinner table. Why are they talking about Arch Manning or DJ Lagway when I've thrown for more yards and more touchdowns while starting more games? Thus, this, of course, the quarterbacks who may be considered stronger Heisman candidates or NFL prospects are in his sights. The next quote that was a part of the article is also this one. We have it, yes, Sam Levitt's whiteboard. He has a whiteboard at the house. How great, or wherever he's living, how great do you want to be? It also features the single word Heisman. And then it has the list, 10 names of people I just don't like, declining to identify them beyond saying they're all quarterbacks.
Some of this may come across as petty, but athletes, you need to find a chip on your shoulder. And part of the thing is it's a very finite thing, the chip on your shoulder, because it can go away. I remember seeing it here at Baylor. They started out with a chip on their shoulder, and then they kind of had to invent one once they got good. And this is the same thing at Arizona State. They had a chip on their shoulder going into last year for 1 million reasons. They were picked last the year before. Their own administration took the bowl game away from them from something they didn't even do. All of those things happen at Arizona State. So they have this chip on their shoulder. Then they go out and they're a really good team and they win the Big 12. So you have to find new chips to put on your shoulder because you've already proven that one thing to yourself and to the world that you can. So what's the next one? Well, this is his motivation and this is what works in the Bull Durham, things. If you, way to look at things for athletes. If you think you're on a hot streak because you're getting laid or not getting laid, or you're wearing socks or you're not wearing socks, then you are. Whatever it is that keeps you going and keeps you on that hot streak is great. I also wonder if we should all make lists of enemies like he did. He just doesn't.
I don't make the list, but I do have one.
Yeah.
It's not very long.
Yeah.
It's not very long.
Yeah, I think whatever it takes for motivation, like Paul said. I mean, you can't say, well, you guys have no chance of winning the Big 12. You have no chance of doing this or that. No chance of making the playoff. No chance of competing with Texas. No chance of, whatever you want to say. I mean, maybe national championship is something somebody could throw out there, but that's elusive for pretty much everybody. So I think you've got to find whatever drives you to the next level, like Paul was referring to. And so for Sam Levitt, it's about other quarterbacks being looked at as being better than him. And I guess the 10 names of people he just doesn't like that are mostly those quarterbacks. But I think he's a really intriguing player. I'm fascinated with ASU and whether this is the start of something really special or if it's maybe more up and down. I think him coming back's a big deal. There's suddenly a much bigger spotlight on him, but that Cam Scatterbo piece, I don't care who you went and got in the transfer portal. Like, that guy was the engine in your fire truck, and Sam Levitt could still be a good driver, but like, is he going to be able to make up for the loss of a Cam Scatterbo? Now, Jordan Tyson and various other players, offensively, defensively, I mean, it's more than one guy, but Sam Levitt is the guy with all the spotlight on him now. He's embracing it, and I think they'll play, as well as he's able to take them. But there is a big vacancy there that maybe they answer that question very quickly with what they did in the portal and what they've already had on the roster. But I'm not just assuming they're going to be right back in the Big 12 championship game, and I think that's where we fall into this trap. Is like, nobody was looking at them last year. Then they win it, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, Arizona State's going to be back in the Big 12 championship." We default to what happened because it just happened. So we're like, "Oh, well, they'll just carry that over. That culture will carry over," and it might. But it's also a really strange league they're playing in. I think they'll be really good. I think he'll be really good, and I'm excited to see that he's embracing the challenge.
His father was a linebacker at BYU. His career was cut short by a broken neck. His mom said, Tanya says that he finished the game in which injuries occurred before seeking medical attention, playing with one of his arms numb. So there you are with that. By the way, he's got, again, all the siblings around him. And there were times, his mom said this, I'll hit one more quote. I don't have the graphic for it. I cannot tell you how many card games ended up with Sam throwing down the cards and running upstairs in tears because he lost. That's him. But he kept trying to win. He would practice ping pong at a neighbor's house until he could beat his brother, Dallin. So there we are with some of the things. Pretty cool story. It's a really, really good story. And you all can take it. Everyone has their own opinion about how it's written or about him. But he is a hell of a player, no question. Kim Coulter just put on the guy he buys cars from, Mercedes, by the way. Kim, I'll add that to the list. Sold Sam his GT. And he said he's kind of a cocky MF. I think I would be too if I was Sam Levitt right now, the quarterback coming off the year and also getting a car and all the NIL that he gets too.
Look, tell me what's wrong with Sam Levitt's life now, at least aesthetically on the surface. He's the quarterback at a really good Arizona State team. He's 21 or 20 years old. Believe me, if most 21-year-old dudes would be like, that's the life right there. But he does. He works really hard, and like all that goes into that. He works really hard. He's a good player, and yeah, he might be cocky, but look, it works for the vibe that they've got going on there. But they have to go out and prove it again, as everybody does. And that, like, Craig nailed it. Kanye Udo and all those guys, I'm sure they'll do a good enough job. But that's a gigantic Cam Scatterbo filled hole that they have to fill because. And I'm not knocking Sam Levitt. When they needed something to happen last year, when it was like, we need something to happen here, it was Cam Scatterbo. Cam Scatterbo was the guy who just... Even
against Texas, where they were kind of floundering, even though there was a wounded duck on the throwback or whatever, flea flicker, a couple of runs, when it seemed like they were stuck in neutral, he came up with some big plays.
Yeah, he had the biggest pass there. I mean, that game. I mean, arguably, or one of them, it was Cam Scatterbo. But I mean, he's cocky. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of young people are, especially as you mentioned, a young quarterback playing for a premier college football team that just won a championship and is riding a high they haven't experienced in a long time and feeling like they'll have every reason to ride that high again this year. So, they're feeling it down in Arizona right now in terms of the Sun Devils. We'll see on the Wildcats, but definitely a flip from where we were a year ago when a lot of the thought was on how good Arizona would be and their quarterback and their wide receiver, and now it's all about Arizona State. So he's embracing it. He's a guy who apparently loves that underdog role and loves feeling like he's disrespected. We've come across a lot of guys. You cover sports long enough, or I guess just life in general, you come across a lot of people like that. Sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you end up eating your words because you have a list of enemies that gets highlighted in a report, and then you turn around, you don't play well. People are going to throw that back in your face, but that's the fun of it. So he seems, cocky, but confident and ready for the challenge. And I think there'll be a lot of people lining up to want to knock him down a peg or two, and that's the way it should be.
So there's a note or 2 or 5 on Sam Levitt. Here's a super chat. Arkit, is that right? Arkit, $5 joining the chat room today. Go Buffs. We will be at Big 12 Media Days next Tuesday and Wednesday in Frisco, by the way, and have interviews, we hope, with a Buffalo or 2 during the time that they are there.
Yeah, the very intriguing team. I mean, last year was quite the interesting ride, and now it's a lot different looking with the Sanders brothers and Travis Hunter no longer there. Obviously, that's the main takeaways from the changeover this season, but there's a lot of new faces, some familiar faces, though, and a couple of very intriguing quarterbacks, a lot of great skill players. So Colorado – still kind of a mystery about exactly where they fit in, but they stand to be just as interesting and maybe even more interesting because there is that element of no Shador and no Travis Hunter. And now it's like, all right, now how do you win without those guys? And, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about Colorado and seeing Dion next week. I guess he hadn't really been out that much, obviously, with his health issues, but expect to see him there next week. And thanks for the super chat. Go Buffs.
I, by the way, sent out emails to all the various media relations, football contacts, and one of them to the Colorado Curtis Snyder. And I said, hope Dion's doing better. Hopefully he'll be at Big 12 Media Days. Not sure we'll get a chance to visit with him or not, but look forward to hoping he's doing so much better. So with Texas State moving to the Pac-12 next year, what's the Sun Belt going to do? Well, Sun Belt executives on Tuesday had meetings discussing expansion. Several people, possible targets, included notably Louisiana Tech, who we brought up when this was something we discussed earlier, but nothing as far as official on who will be the team that replaces Texas State.
Yeah, I mean, 13 schools is still kind of a lot in a conference. I know it seems tiny. When you look at 18, 17, and 16-team leagues, but staying there may not be a bad thing. And, I guess, Louisiana Tech, I think Louisiana Tech would be a fun add to that conference if they were to do it. But, staying at 13 may not be the worst thing in the world. I mean, what's the difference between 13 and 14 in the grand scheme of things if 14 isn't necessarily additive
with
to you.
13, you're not going to play everybody. So with 14, you're not going to play everybody. So why not? If it could add to what you need to balance the schedule, right? So there we are with Sun Belt and Louisiana Tech. Got a pretty good history at Louisiana Tech. They really, really do. Is Sonny Cumbie the head coach there now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Has been for a while, yeah.
Well, don't look at me like I'm like 66 or something.
I'm just saying he's been there for.
My God, I know. Yeah. I get mixed up with who's been where, but I did get a name right. I did get Sonny Cumbie. I could have said Hal Mummy. Now UCF. We said this. The story came out a couple of weeks ago about them changing the name, and now they have taken down the banner, and it is there. FBS Mortgage Stadium. Also known, of course, as the Bounce House. And Mark Daniels, the voice of UCF, will join us today at around 5 o'clock.
It is now the Acrisure Bounce House. And I can tell you, if you're a college football fan who just likes to go to, random places that have a good vibe, go there. It's fun place to go. I hope that we can get down there and go to a game. They do a great job at UCF of game day atmosphere. And, it is it doesn't shake when people start bouncing like A&M does when the whole like Kyle Field does when everybody starts swaying. But you can feel but you can feel it, if that makes sense. Like you can get it. They're great fans there. I love that they FBC Mortgage Stadium, like no offense to that, but embracing the name that everybody calls it and just calling it the Bounce House. And then whatever, like Acrissure's there for a while. And if somebody else comes along 10, 20 years from now, it seems like, look, this is the Bounce House. We're going to call it the Bounce House. I love that. I think it's great because that's what it is to everybody. That's what they call it. So,
yeah, Sonny Cumbie, year 4. So year 4 for Sonny Cumbie at Louisiana Tech.
Well, I thought it was recent.
Yeah, but no, I'm just filling in that that part of our discussion. But yeah, so year 4 for Cumbie, and I didn't have a lot to say about the La Tech thing because that's been out there and that's been talked about pretty widely. I have gotten into some of the message board posts on some of the history and some of the bad blood involving La Tech and some of the other schools, and just kind of how funny how things evolve over time and who ends up where, who ends up back someplace, and talking to these people that they maybe didn't want to associate with not that long ago. And so I don't know where all that lands, but La Tech does seem like they're the most likely candidate. And, now it's the Sun Belt who has this fun, geography is kind of being rattled now as the ever shifting realignment just continues to shift more and more and more and continue to affect people until I guess it gets to the end of the line, which I don't know when that is. I mean, we got to get some more places to go before the effects of Oklahoma and Texas all those years ago, and then everything after that finally settled down. But yeah, I'm intrigued by what the Sun Belt does next. But as far as this goes, that's cool. I mean, the Bounce House is what I'm calling it, and it just now you can say, well, it's officially the Bounce House. You're not just calling it the nickname; it's officially that. And this is, something UCF is used to. I mean, it was the Bounce House before again, right? This is the second time it's been this. So it's not like this is some new concept at all. This is something that's been in place before. It's Acrisure Bounce House is cooler than Acrisure Stadium. So, yeah, I like being able to call it the Bounce House and that being the official name. Not sure how often the Acrisure part will get mentioned by me, but you'll still know who we're talking about. That's for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of times
that's not just for sure. That's Acrisure.
Yeah, these sponsor names, they're spending a lot of money. And like, for example, the one in Tyler, the high school stadium is called Rose Stadium, but it started to have one of the hospitals, local systems. I think they've changed their name a little bit, but I mean, they put money into that. I remember when they announced that, and I was doing some TV at the time, and I mentioned Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium. I say this because some media outlets did not, and they heard from the vice president of Trinity Mother Frances Health System because of the check that they were writing to renovate that proud and very interesting and unique stadium.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My biggest issue, like, I just have trouble remembering or how to say, like, Acrisure is not a word that, like, you use in the English language. It's a name that someone made up. Like, it's not a name there's no Dan Acrisure. It's one of these like corporate names that they made. Those things are always hard for me to remember and say.
No, I get it. I get that. Also, by the way, I'm emailing the La Tech Media Relations Department right now for an interview with Sonny Cumbie. And if you guys bring up the fact that I was wondering how long or if he was the head coach, we're going to blows.
No, at least you didn't say like any number of the former Texas Tech quarterbacks who are coaches now.
So now
that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, now every time I correct you, do we have to interview that person? I'll just not say anything.
I hope
I'm just not going to say anything.
No, I'm glad you did because I was questioning because I just sometimes, when you get.
No, I get it. I was making sure you knew that, yeah, he was there and he's been there and he's still there. And yeah, he might not be there longer if they don't win more games, but he's settled in there. And I'll just be choosy about what I correct from now on. So we don't have to book him.
I want you to. I need you to. I need that kind of help and support when we come back. Oh, no. One more story. Everybody, even Michael Jordan started missing key shots. Tiger Woods started missing putts under pressure. This, to me, is devastating news with the Red Panda. She fell. Oh, no, it's not good. She injured herself. We've seen her at games. Everybody probably has seen her, whether it's at wherever, usually basketball games, etc., professional sporting events. She fell. This is like if, what's the guy that eats the hot dogs? Joey Chestnut?
Yeah.
I know he's getting back into that, but if Joey Chestnut was to lose, there comes a time. And the Red Panda hurt her wrist. was taken out, wishing her the best of luck because she was amazing and really a lot of fun to watch if you were at an event when she was there during halftime.
Yeah, she hurt her wrist. And this was without the bowls, too. She was just starting. So she didn't get to the bowls part yet. She was actually, there's a show on Netflix called Running Point, and she's so famous in basketball circles. She was a guest on that show.
Really?
Yeah, they had Red Panda doing her thing on Running Point. So she's big time. I've always enjoyed it. I remember the first time that I saw Red Panda thinking, well, this is kind of a weird thing to have in a basketball game. And then 10 seconds into her doing what she does, you're like, no, I get it. This is great. This is amazing. I don't know why I'm so entertained by this lady catching bowls, and how you find out that this is the specific talent you have is still fascinating to me. So,
yeah, man, that sucks. I guess when you do that performance often enough, at some point you're probably going to have a slip up or two. And so I don't know if there's been any really notable ones prior. I mean, she performs so often. I can't imagine she's got a clean slate and much less, no broken bowls over time. But yeah, no bowls even involved there. So best of luck to Red Panda. Best I can tell. She's like 55, so she's still got good years left. She's not at the end of her rope by any means, but who knows? Maybe this wrist – we're going to have to see. She's day-to-day with this wrist injury. But, yeah, that sucks, and good luck to her in getting better.
If it was she played for the Cowboys, it would be 4 to 6 weeks, even if they knew she was out for the rest of the year. When we come back, Brett McMurphy, who made the announcement earlier this week from where he was to now part of On 3, an elite college football reporter. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. I traded a couple of text messages. Well, I actually tried to trade a text message or two with Dr. Petty, but he was in the mountains somewhere. And so I had to use another app. And he responded right away. He's out just kind of chilling with the family. It was good to hear from him. He's amazing at what he's done. He's one of the first that really kind of started the testosterone issue that men can have. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It could be energy. It could be your sex drive. It could be many things. And he's trying to help you out. Here's what you do. Go online or contact him with what is on the website, pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him you might have some of the symptoms that are listed on the website. And he will set you up to get your blood work, take care of that. He gets the results, looks at them, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
The summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by. Let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The preeminent college football reporter, Brett McMurphy, joins us on 365 Sports. It's been a while, Brett, and breaking news. We're not allowed to bring up certain words like realignment, but with you, we can, because you're realigning with a new company on 3 Sports. Your thoughts about the change for you?
Yeah, no, I joined on 3 Sports yesterday, actually, officially. And yeah, really excited. They are all in 1,000% on all things college football. Joining a great staff there. Pete Nakos, very good young, aggressive reporter. Obviously, Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman have their daily podcasts that are really good. But yeah, I'm excited to go there, basically doing the same thing I've been doing the past 100 years or so. just doing it for On 3. And hey, look, I'll talk realignment all you want, but yeah, it's fun to do it, and good timing right before I fill out my Big 12 media poll and head to Frisco for Big 12 media.
Brett, what did you think about that? Did we just lose our privilege on that because we got it so wrong, or would you like to do the media poll? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'd love it, and I think I've told you guys before. Look, let's just pick names out of a hat, and we could probably do better. And actually, if anyone would have done that, you would have done better. I don't know if you guys looked or not. I went back and looked of the media poll for the Big 12. Last year for Big 12, of the 16 teams predicted between 1 and 16, not one team was in the correct spot. All 16 were wrong. That's hard to do on purpose. And somehow we pulled it off. Look, I don't know what you guys think about it, but, and this is not coming from anybody at the Big 12, just my personal thoughts on this. I think the Big 12 decided to get rid of it because of the perception it created with the league. When you have a team that basically the so-called experts pick them as your worst team and they win the league, then I think, the perception may be, well, wow, this league is not really that good. When I just think it's the opposite. It's just so freaking competitive that anybody can literally win it. So, I'm sure Yormark will get asked about that next week and he'll have a response. But example of that is on Monday, I'll tweet out the Vegas win totals for all the power conference schools. And just to let you guys know, the Big 12, the highest win total is only 8.5. Mm-hmm. The lowest win total is only 5. So basically you've got, these are all games and not just conference games. You've only got 3.5 game separation between 16 schools. And when you look at the other power leagues, Big Ten, SEC, and ACC, the difference between the top team and the bottom team is either 7.5 wins, 7 wins, or 6 wins. So they have and have not. So those teams at the top can take advantage of the teams at the bottom. The problem for the Big 12 is, not the problem, but the challenge is they don't have any, quote, teams at the bottom. They're that equal. And it doesn't mean they're all bad. Doesn't mean they're all good. It's just they're that competitive and there's not a lot of separation. And so going back to your original question, I just think they didn't like the perception that the worst team won the league. And you guys know how everybody's worried about perception these days. But we'll see what Mark has to say. But again, this year it's as crazy as ever. I picked Utah to win it this year, so they'll probably go 1-11, but they've got as good a chance as anybody. And I think on your show last year, you asked me who I liked, and I said, well, it's easier to name the schools that have no chance. And I said Arizona State was one of those schools. So, yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, Brett, I think also, 8 teams over 2 years coming in, mixing with 8 teams they haven't been mixing with. I mean, you've got this weird batch of teams all figuring each other out and figuring out they're all pretty equal. And, yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like Vegas is all that confident if they had to put a media poll out either.
No, they're not. And I just think, Vegas does it based on the power ratings. And basically the power ratings, you've got these teams that are not that rated that high or that low from the other teams. I mean, in the other leagues, you've got Ohio State and Oregon. They're light years ahead of everybody. And Penn State, light years above everybody in the Big Ten. In the SEC, you've got Georgia and Texas, maybe Alabama, but again, they're on a different level than everyone else in the SEC. The ACC, you've got Clemson. They're projected to win 10 games. So part of that is their strength of the programs. Other of that is the schedule. And so, look, the Big 12 is just so, freaking competitive. It's hard to say anyone is the clear-cut favorite, which is funny. Arizona State, Kansas State, and Texas Tech have the highest win totals at 8.5. And, a year ago, we're wondering if Arizona State could win 2 games, and now they've projected to have one of the better seasons. So it's just difficult. And then, again, I would add, look, if Arizona State doesn't run that blitz on 4th down, they beat Texas and advance in the playoffs, but, woulda, coulda, shoulda doesn't matter. So obviously they held their own, but that's just kind of some of the challenges the Big 12's facing coming into this season is they're just so freaking even that it's going to be hard for anybody really to establish themselves and pull away from the pack.
So last year, like you, I picked Utah to win the Big 12. You're picking them this year. I was very wrong last year. I think you've got a much better shot this year. Why the Utes? Because there is all this love for ASU and Texas Tech and Kansas State and even Baylor amongst some others. But why Utah?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was on the Utah train last year too, I think. And look, they were decimated by injuries. Obviously, Cam Rising, and then they just lost a boatload of players. The injuries last year, I don't see them having that type of non-success, if you will, multiple seasons. The thing that I really like about them is they usually, with Kyle Whittingham, they're usually going to be very good on defense. They're usually very good on the defensive line. That's what's made them very successful. Now you have a different look on offense. You bring in new offensive coordinator Jason Beck from New Mexico and transfer Devin Dampier, who, if people have not seen him, the guy is unbelievable dual threat. He ranked fourth New Mexico was fourth nationally last year in total offense behind Dampier. Obviously New Mexico is different from the Big 12, but I think he's got the skill set to really make a difference. And, again, a lot of it's schedule for Utah. They get the teams you basically just reeled off. They get Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State all at home. Does that mean they're going to win them all? Absolutely not in this league, but at least they get them into Salt Lake City. So, as long as they don't stumble out of the gate at UCLA, I think they would be 3-0 with Texas Tech coming to town for that first Big 12 game, which obviously Texas Tech has got massive expectations based on, their success in the portal and everything going on there in Lubbock. So that's kind of why I went with Utah. So, sorry, Utah fans, probably 2-10 this year.
I was going to ask you this about Gundy and Whittingham. Both have had long-term success at programs. In some cases have had success in the past, but not as consistently. And which one of them, if they don't get to a bowl game, would be truly under fire? Is Gundy bulletproof, or you would know that as much as anybody with your degree, but is he bulletproof, or does he have to do something much better this year?
Well, in today's environment, the number of bulletproof coaches, I think, have reduced greatly. I will say this. I think Mike can determine when he walks away at Oklahoma State. Now, I will say, add to that Oklahoma State cannot go 3-9 again. But I don't necessarily know if it's, well, you got to win X number of games or you're out the door. The same thing with Whittingham, which they already have a coach in place for when he decides to step down. And again, I know everything now is, what have you done for me lately? And a lot of younger people don't realize the state of Oklahoma State's program before Gundy arrived. When he came there with the Les Miles helped turn it around. But then Gundy's been there 20 years. Last year ended at 18 consecutive seasons with a winning record. And that's the fourth or fifth in the history of college football for a coach at one school. Not even Saban did that at Alabama and some other big names. So, he had a horrific season, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. If he has another horrific season, is his future there in danger? I'd say anything's possible. The thing with Oklahoma State, knowing this, as an alum and just somebody who follows college football, and I thought this last year, anytime Oklahoma State is projected to do really, really well, they usually don't live up to those expectations. Anytime that they're projected to do really, really poorly, Gundy usually turns it around and surprises people. And that's, the fact that they've had 18 consecutive winning seasons is an example. And in fact, the last 2 years, they were not ranked in the AP preseason top 25 poll, which this will be year number 3. Oklahoma State finished the year in the top 15. So I'm not saying Oklahoma State's going to be in the top 15, but I also know Gundy's history and track record, and I think he'll turn this thing around and get them back to being obviously more competitive. And last year, it was just whatever could go wrong went horrible.
Did last year also help? I know he's I don't know, he was kind of standoffish about. He doesn't, he's not the guy who gets deep into the weeds anyway in the press conferences. But when it came to, where they were, financially, with NIL and all those things, that did this allow him to maybe get some of those assurances a little bit more, saying look, we're 3-9. If you want me to do a wholesale roster takeover, we got to do this together, even though that was very contentious.
Yeah, I think that helped. Also, I'm sure you guys are aware, he's got 2 new coordinators. Mm-hmm. In fact, his entire staff is brand new. So it's basically, it's a clean slate. There was some stuff going on behind the scenes. The former university president is no longer there. She was a supporter of Gundy. Did that impact her, stature at Oklahoma State? I'm not going to go down that path, but there are some people who think that contributed to her no longer being at OSU. I don't know if I buy that or not. So I think kind of what you brought up, I think that's part of it. I think it's and look, I've had people, not specifically Gundy, but other coaches and other ADs tell me this, especially now. It's if you're at a university, you've got a shelf life, and it's usually around 5 or 6 years. And at that point, no matter what happens, unless you're Saban, people get tired of you. And the thing is, but when you're having success, the people that are tired of you can't really say anything. But then if you have a bad season, well, now they come out of the woodwork because they've been waiting for you finally to slip up. So, I think that was kind of the case with Gundy. But, I think he's got assurances of what he can do. And obviously, look, if you're not all on board with NIL and paying your players and all those things that we have going forward, look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You realize you can't survive, and you've got to you either have to do it, or you might as well drop down to D2 or something.
Brett, what have you made of all the talk, speaking of NIL, about Texas Tech and their big moves this offseason? And that adds a lot of pressure, but they seem to be embracing that. You picked Utah, but I think you also mentioned them as one of your contenders. But just what do you make of all the noise the Red Raiders have been making and kind of rubbing some people the wrong way who don't expect a school like them to be going toe-to-toe, paying players and landing big stars like some of the Ohio States and UTs of the world?
Yeah, if they rub somebody the wrong way, you've got a choice. You can try to do something else. I mean, obviously you saw, the success of their softball program getting to the final of the Women's College World Series because they signed, arguably one of the best pitchers in the country out of Stanford. And so I think they're taking that same formula to the football side. And, it's been a lot of, very in-depth articles about what Texas Tech has done. And they're not shying away from it. They're going all in on this. And look, you've got two options. You can either go all in on this and, try to succeed, or you can just sit back and say, oh, woe is me. We can't do this. We can't afford this. And then see what your fan base thinks of that. So yeah, people are jacked up in Lubbock. Make no mistake about it. And, that Big 12 opener at Utah, it should be give us an idea. Are they really going to contend for a title, or are they just going to kind of muddle around 7-5, 6-6, and get bowl eligible?
I saw your tweet with, I think it was Circus Sports, the Heisman Trophy, Arch Manning at the top. There's Nussmeier and others. What are your thoughts? He's obviously an incredible talent. We know the lineage, the history, tradition, but he's also the quarterback of a team loaded, even with some parts to replace, and an incredible play caller as a head coach. Your thoughts about the expectations with Arch Manning?
Well, the expectations are, how many games can you play? 16, 17 and 0? I mean, Paul Feinbaum said he's the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. I'm like, hold on there, Paul. Come on. I know you're Mr. SEC, but I think you're taking it a little bit too far. Look, I think he'll do very well. I think the expectations, unfortunately, I don't know if he can reach those expectations. Usually when these Heisman lists come out, it's better to not be the odds-on favorite before the season, because what I've seen happen, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, is whenever that player has a game, nobody talks about what he did do. They talk about what he didn't do. They want to find holes in his game. They want to, he threw this interception, but he threw 4 touchdowns. And we'll just see if that happens with Manning. But, I do think, last year was an exception with Travis Hunter. I do think you need to be a quarterback on a team that has a shot to get to the playoffs, to have a legitimate chance. So certainly he fits that bill. And it was funny, I don't know, because Steve Spurrier kind of remarked last week, if you saw it, he was like, well, if Arch Manning was that good last year, why didn't he play when Ewers was struggling? Because Ewers was only a 7th-round draft pick. So we're going to find out if it's legit or not, but certainly, all the eyes of Texas and everywhere else will be on Manning and the Longhorns.
Brett, I know that you only picked one team for the Big 12 into the playoff, which is, probably what's going to happen. But let's just say hypothetically that chaos happens in the Big 10 and SEC, and they both only get, less than they want in there, and the Big 12 can sneak another team in there. Who do you think that would be?
Well, based on my bowl projections, I think I had possibly Kansas State, I think, is my runner-up. So it would be probably Kansas State. I mean, I think, again, we'll know from Ireland, Kansas State and Iowa State open up. I think Kansas State with Avery Johnson, I think, they're a good shot. I mean, I would put either Kansas State, Iowa State winner, and then if Texas Tech's for real, I'd put them up there. I think Arizona State's got a good chance, but I just think it's really difficult. Not specifically Arizona State, but any school they kind of overachieve so much one year, and then the next year the expectations are to have that same kind of success. It's usually hard to replicate that success. But hey, Kenny Dillingham is proving people wrong, his whole career. So maybe this will be another opportunity. But if I had to get off the fence and actually pick one team, I would probably go with Kansas State.
Are you excited about the fact we're just asking you about football? Just games and expectations, conferences, standings, wins, losses, Heisman, and championships?
Would this be like a Nolan Ryan fastball at 40 years old when he didn't quite throw 100 miles an hour? Next question. Yes, I don't know about. I don't know what the fans think, but I'm tired about the portal, and I'm tired about the house settlement. I'm tired about. It's like, okay, yeah. I talked to coaches about it, and I can't name the coach. He basically said, "Look, when everyone figures out what the hell we're doing, just tell me, and then we'll move forward. But until then, I don't want to hear about all this stuff."
No, I know. And our audience says the same thing based on the feedback we get from them too. They're almost like zoned out over it and tired of it. So I wanted to. All right. So then my question to you is this: what's more of a hot seat, a team because all of a sudden they start losing, they've been winning, or a team where the expectations are sky high and they don't?
Well, I would say the latter, because if they're sky high, that means that school's put in a lot of money and has paid a lot of money for their roster. So their fan base is probably not going to sit well, one, with the fan base, but two, more importantly, the athletic administration. So I would say that is the case. Now, if it's a team that's done well, but it's well known that maybe perhaps they're not all in on their players, paying their players, that sort of thing. I think they may catch a break, because they can say, look, we didn't have the money that School X did, and so that's why we didn't perform that way. I mean, it's a lousy excuse, but I think it's more that way. Like we've talked about Texas Tech a lot. I mean, I think if Texas Tech goes 7-5, is anyone in Lubbock gonna say, man, that was a great season?
No.
And I'm not saying that shouldn't be considered a great season. I'm just saying, when you have expectations out there for Arch Manning to win the Heisman, for Texas Tech to go from 8-5 last year to double-digit wins this year, and that doesn't happen, then there's going to be a lot of blowback and a lot of disgruntled fan bases and hot reads on the message boards, I guess.
Do you ever think you'd see a day when Texas State was in the Pac-12, Brett?
Yeah, when I was a little kid growing up watching the Big 8 games, I said, you know what? One day Texas State's going to be in the Pac-12.
Oh, Southwest Texas State back then, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Southwest. What's fun? Yeah, I mean, it should be the Pac State 12, or you got to be a state name to be in there. I mean, and look, you guys know me. I shoot straight. I don't BS. If something's good, I say it's good. If something's bad, I say it's bad. I mean, I'm happy for Texas State. I tweeted this out when Texas State got the official or was officially added to the Pac-12, and people are like, "Oh, why are you hating on Texas State?" I'm not. It's just the fact of life. In the college football playoff, they had the Sun Belt's worst league record in the Sun Belt. Now they've gone to bowl games the last 2 years. Doesn't mean what has happened the last 11 years is going to predict what's going to happen moving forward. But again, to be honest, it's great for Texas State, but they were, the 4th, 5th choice of the Pac-12. They couldn't get any teams from the American, and the Pac-12 had to add a warm body. So more power to them. I hope they kill it there. I hope they win the league. But now they're, moving from one group of 5 conference to a group of 6 conference.
Last question.
Brett, how many media days will you get to this year?
I'm only doing 3. I'm doing Big 12, Big 10, and SEC. The Big 10 and ACC conflict, so you got to choose. So I'm like Charlotte or Vegas. Boy, where am I going on this one? I miss the old days. You know, we're talking about the Pac-12 when there was the power. We had the Power 5, and there was one year a few years ago where I actually went. They were surprisingly on different schedules, which I've never known why the conferences can't get together and schedule them on different times so people can showcase just their conference when nobody else is going on. But you know what? And I'm expecting that, and they can't even figure out what they want for the playoffs. But anyway, one year I did hit all 5 Power 5 conference media days, and it was kind of similar to the Tiger Slam that year when he won all 4 majors, but not in the same year. So.
I love it.
Those days are long gone. So now we're down to 4, and a couple of years from now, who knows what we're down to.
Thank you, man. On3 is lucky to have you. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in Frisco next week. Appreciate your time, Brett. Have a great week.
You got it, guys. See you in Frisco.
Brett McMurphy, on3.com, and started that, in fact, on July the 1st. He had reached out to him for an interview. It's been maybe about a week or so ago, and he said, I can't do an interview until July 1st, and then we know why with the addition to him and the On3 staff.
Yeah, that's a great get for On3. I mean, they pretty much are monopolizing things, it feels like, in some ways. I mean, acquiring rivals, although, 247 is still out there doing their thing in terms of those similar types of networks. But, there's a great addition for On3 and somebody I'll definitely be continuing to follow. So good to have him back on the show for the first time in a while. It's been how many months? Like 3 or 4 months, probably
since back in January, February. Yeah.
So that's pretty long gap without talking to him, but just in time for media days and everything starting back up. And so, that's fun, and looking forward to getting into more of the actual game conversations and things like that as we get closer here.
All right, when we come back, still much to get to, including Josh Furlong. He covers Utah. We'll also today have a segment on UCF and one on Kansas State with Derek Young about 25 minutes away from now. If you haven't subscribed to what we do, we would appreciate you doing that.
I just realized I'm really pissed at myself. We should have asked him about freaking Jake Retzloff. And so now coming up next, we can talk to Josh about, I'm sure he's got a perspective on it, but as soon as you said Utah, it just made me think of I was like, there's something that we're not asking about that's like a major story, and that's like the most obvious one because it's the most recent one.
I'm going to make a prediction. I think Jake goes to Wisconsin.
To Wisconsin?
That's my guess.
Why Wisconsin?
Because they're based on putting the very limited pieces we have together with that. But Jay Drew said, suffice it to say, it's a power program. But I spent the last couple days looking through the power programs that would make sense, and the only one that truly makes sense would be Wisconsin.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of faith in is it Billy Edwards and
I
don't even know who's in the rest of the room. Really.
Yeah, I mean, no knock to Billy Edwards, but has he guided his team to?
They signed a couple portal quarterbacks. So I mean, to your point, they don't have just like a guy that I'm aware of. So that makes. I mean, if he gets to go to a power school, we sure saw a lot of there's already people in contact. Guess who that probably came from? The agent to Jake Retzloff or Mr. Retzloff or somebody like that, because that's often how social media is used. So I'm not sure what he's heard at this point in time. He shouldn't have a super stigma. It's not as though he committed a crime. Mm-hmm. He was alleged to have, but then the lawsuit gets dropped. So you can't really treat him like he was proven guilty in a court of law and he's like this radioactive guy, but you can still be very wary of maybe what baggage is brought with that. Although, given he wasn't found guilty, it's different, right? It's you had your charges dropped and you move on in life and you're not going to jail or anything. So you're free to do what you want to do, but who wants to take that on? And I don't know. I don't know what's a good landing spot for him at this point, this late in the game. But I think that there's got to be at least some traction. But it's not a sure thing at all that he's at some power program come the fall by any means. But damn, I just wish I would ask Brett about that because that was just such a big topic the last couple of days and Just whiffed on that one.
Well, yeah,
I'm getting old, guys, okay?
Right.
I'm getting
Sonny
old. I'm
Cumbie.
starting to forget things.
Sonny Cumbie's the head coach at La Tech.
4 years now.
4 years.
4
now.
years in Ruston for Sonny.
He's been around. All right, when we come back, Josh Furlong will join us on Utah, since we just spoke with them about them a lot with Brett McMurphy. Derek Young on K-State. Mark Daniels at 5 o'clock on UCF, but so much more to get to. And this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35, and what a nice place. What a really, really nice place. So much to do. By the way, they're renovating a few things. If you're eating at the Baylor Club for lunch or for dinner, obviously it's inside McLean Stadium, so it's there when they're hosting games, and it's a beautiful view. But also great food. Baylor Club with the amenities, chefs that make sure that when they add something to the menu, they're good enough just to add it, and you just deal with it or eat it, like it. But they will also have some tasting events. But it's another place that you can host events like we do every May, honoring 20 elite, amazing high school football and volleyball and other student athletes, because they're great in class too and in the community. If you have a symposium, a business meeting, any kind of a luncheon, they can host it, and they do a great job. The staff is fantastic. Membership's available. Tell them that we sent you at 365 Sports, and there's usually a little extra something that you might get, whether a discount or something else. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Josh Furlong joins us. He covers Utah. We just had Brett McMurphy, who's high on Utah. Paul has been high on Utah with the Eric Dampier, the quarterback, also now joining. Is it Eric? Yeah, Eric Dampier, the quarterback out of New Mexico. Josh, great to have you on.
Dampier.
Excuse me, Dampier. Devin Dampier about to be a part of what Utah's doing and already on campus. Josh, what are the legitimate expectations that last year was just like a blip on the radar and that everything's back to normal, injuries won't be as bad, the quarterback situation's better? What are the expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the expectations are pretty high for this team. This is a team that understands that it didn't live up to any of the expectations that it had. It was honestly one of Kyle Whittingham's worst offenses of all time. And so, the expectation is high, especially with how they've built this roster. Last year, they built a roster essentially around Cam Rising, expecting him just to be the guy, and everything was tailored around what he was going to be. And so when he was gone after that Baylor game, things started to change drastically. And so because of that, they went back to the drawing board. They got a new offensive coordinator. They've got an offensive staff and personnel that fits so much more, where if one guy goes down, it necessarily doesn't destroy the entire offense, right? Like, injuries are part of the game. We get that. Obviously, you want to keep your quarterback for the entire time, but they've developed a little bit more of a safe plan, where you can kind of have other players that can step in. The offense schemes aren't as complex as what Andy Ludwig had. And so it's an opportunity for them to just kind of be able to exist in a way that lets these guys showcase their talent. And I think based off of that, the expectations were high in spring ball. They were, using spring as really a jumping off point. It didn't feel like kind of one of those go through the motion spring. We're just here because we want to go through it. It very much so felt kind of like a fall camp where they were getting ready for the season. And so I think they believe highly in themselves. At the very least, they're going to be better than last year. At least that would be a minor expectation. But I think the belief there is that they believe that they really can compete for a Big 12 title this year and make some noise with a lot of people not really expecting them this year.
Josh, Devin Dampier can hit the ground running because he does know that offense, and that's what gives them confidence. Is there with Parker, with other guys, is there that same kind of confidence that the transfers that they have can fit in because the quarterback already knows what he's doing?
Yeah, that was a huge advantage, right? You come from an offense with Jason Beck where you knew exactly what it was down at New Mexico. He ran that offense well, got them to be the number 4 team in the country in terms of offensive production. Now he can take that to a level where you would assume that all the players around him are a lot more skilled. You have an offensive line that has arguably 2 first-round picks on the line, and so you've got a lot of ability that Devin Dampier didn't even have. This is a guy that only took 5 sacks last year with an offensive line that was good, but not as good as what this Utah line is supposed to be. And so I think just having that alone, just having that familiarity and the ability to be able to have somebody that's been on your side, it really helps. It helps also that Devin Dampier is one of those guys that he comes in and he just absorbs kind of the culture of a team. He's a vocal leader. He goes in there and he's not just doing it for show. It really just kind of is in his nature to be a leader. And so he comes in there, the defense respects him, the offense respects him. There's just kind of this chemistry that has already come, and you had guys that they would just smile because you would bring up Devin Dampier. That's the kind of like energy that he brings in. So beyond just what he's able to do on the field, he's a guy that rallies the troops. And as long as he can do what he needs to do, have a similar production at New Mexico, at Utah, I think this offense could be really special with him. He's obviously got that familiarity with Jason Beck. You also have a workhorse running back behind him who also is coming with his running back coach. And so there's familiarity all around where these guys have worked together. And even though they're all kind of being brought together in one spot, there's a lot of consistency and understanding amongst each other, especially at the coaching level, on what this offense can be.
Josh, do you feel like there was much adjustment joining a new league? I mean, obviously Arizona State didn't feel that way because they just ripped through it and won the title at the end. And, there's a lot to be made, I think, overblown about Utah fans online and the Big 12 and all of that. It can kind of get off the rails a bit. But was there an adjustment in your mind there? And do you feel like there is going to be improvement, in that regard, one way or the other this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always adjustment, right? I think, it's just more in the sense of kind of how one conference does it over the next. The game of football itself, it doesn't change. I've talked to many coaches up there about this same question, and how the game is played, it may be slightly different. Obviously, there's a lot more physicality in on the defensive side of the ball in terms of the corners being able to lock up these wide receivers a little bit more. In the Pac-12, it wasn't as much as what they faced in the Big 12. But by and large, if you talk to anybody there, that wasn't really their biggest issue. They felt like they had the staff. They felt like they had everything needed to be able to do it. It just kind of, you had an offensive coordinator that was kind of maybe outdated for his time. It worked really well with Cam Rising, who understood that system really well. The problem is once Cam was out, everything changed. And so I think, there's going to be some adjustments, right? There's going to be some different wrinkles that they see and how teams defended them and, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that there was this huge jump up that they had to face by going from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. I mean, the reality is Kyle Whittingham had to go through this at a much larger scale when they moved from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. So, he's at least learned from that experience. And so I think even if there was an adjustment period, they were able to absorb it a little bit more than maybe most would because he's experienced it before.
We don't have enough Kyle Whittinghams and long-term coaches, Mike Gundy among a few others in college football as it is. If he was to have a year where they win a conference title and make it to the college football playoff, would he say, see ya because of the coach in waiting? Do you feel like he has more to prove?
No, I mean, Kyle's one of those guys that he could probably coach to the day he dies. I mean, this is a guy that loves football. He loves being around it. And he's always said, as long as I'm having fun, I'm still going to keep doing it. With that said, there was a lot of belief last year, a lot of the way that the team was positioning and everything that was going, where it really felt kind of like his last run. And so when the season didn't pan out the way that it was expected to, there was still a belief that he was going to leave, but then it just kind of came down to it is the boosters wanted him there. They want him to be able to kind of go out on a high note. They believe he still has enough in the tank to be able to get them to a Big 12 title, get them to the playoffs, whatever that may be. And so if they do it this year, I wouldn't at all be surprised if he left. I think he wants to go out on a high note, but at the same time, it's really going to come down to, is he still having fun? With that said, though, you have to be cognizant of the guy that you have in the room in Morgan Scalley, who they've promised basically everything to be able to give him the head coaching position. And not that I think Scalley is going to leave, but I think there comes a point where you kind of have to kind of take opportunities if it doesn't present yourself there. So you kind of have this balancing act. How long do you keep Kyle Whittingham versus how long do you move on to the next era? But I think either way, Utah's in a good spot. And I think Kyle Whittingham still has more to give.
If there's a pothole that they could step in this year, what is it?
Ooh, I think largely it's going to be in their wide receiver room. They're a little unproven. They had to rebuild that room. I don't know that that's the biggest issue for them. I mean, it is just based on the lack of experience and not a lot of necessarily guys that are proven, wide receiver one type talent. But I think, they've got enough around them, whether it be in the run game, with Devin Dampier, whatever it may be, that they can absorb that. But to me, that's kind of the one thing that I'm looking at is saying, okay, if they can't get anything going in the passing game, this becomes a one-dimensional offense, and as good as Devin can be, you've got to be able to have more. We've seen Utah when they are only a one-dimensional offense and how different that changes what they're able to do. You see defenses lock them up a lot more. And so if they can't get anything in that passing game, even if it's just moderate, if they can't get that, then I think this is going to be a much different season than many expect. Obviously, if Devin goes down, that's a different thing. But I think that's the biggest quote unquote pothole for this team.
Does it feel like there's at least, and like you said, I mean, things can always happen, but even Cam Rising going into last year, I mean, I guess he was as healthy as he could be for that point, but there's still always this question. Does it feel like there's kind of been like a cloud lifted almost in a way that's not going to necessarily be a reoccurring issue that you have to think about as availability of your starting quarterback?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as much as every fan and player on that roster loved and wanted Cam Rising to be there was just too much hanging over the program for the last 2 years. Obviously, last year was kind of the big blow up, but it was still the same way the year before. Is Cam going to play? Is he not? What's going to happen? It just kind of casts this cloudy curse, so to speak, over the program that nobody was able to kind of lift. And so when things weren't going right, it was easy for a lot of these players to kind of blame other things, right? Even though the frustration started with not having Cam Rising. Cam Rising even felt that to a point last year where he was not ready. He saw a lot of fans and people frustrated and saying all he did was hurt a finger. Why doesn't he go out there? Why doesn't he step up, be man enough to go out there? When in reality, they didn't know that he had nerve damage in that hand. He couldn't even really fully grip a ball. And so then he goes out into that Arizona State game and just looks absolutely terrible. And now that's the last time you're ever going to see him. All of that led to a really difficult situation in the locker room. They tried to stay as together as possible, but you just have so many people pointing fingers at each other, especially when you put a lot of that faith in a true freshman quarterback who, as the season developed, tried to put even more pressure on himself and try to take big shots instead of just trying to do things simple. So there was definitely a cloud lifted once this all went away. I think the new coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball has changed that. They're a lot more, I wouldn't say personable, but they're a lot more open. They're a lot more energetic and exciting. And so I think it's just easy to kind of exude that confidence and happiness, whereas you also kind of got rid of some of the people that were causing problems in that locker room. So I think there's definitely been a cloud lifted on just looking at spring, it was very different in how this team reacted. They were much happier. They were much lighter. And it just, you could genuinely feel that it was gone.
Josh, it's the holy war, BYU and Utah. There's a reason. They don't like each other. There might be some respect, but there's a lot of hate too. You know all about it. So how has Utah, the fan base, reacted to BYU losing their quarterback?
This is a tricky one, right? I mean, like it's this weird thing where BYU fans are now something. I'm not accusing all of them, but some BYU fans are saying that Utah orchestrated this. They set it all up. That's just part of the rivalry, right? But there's not a lot of love lost there, right? Like I think in one vein, Utah fans are saying, it's actually better for BYU to not have Retzlaff. They didn't feel like he was the best quarterback. And so what could some other guy be? But I think, no matter what happens, these two teams are going to go after each other and contest anything that they've got. Like I said, there's no love lost between them. They hate each other on the field. They respect each other because they understand they're very much similar programs. They've had coaching staffs that have been at both sides. This is one of those things where there's a lot that are more similar than they are different. The problem is they hate each other so much. And I know Utah fans, and I know Utah specifically, is not at all satisfied with the 2-game losing streak. They feel like they're the better program. They don't love the way that BYU was able to kind of cruise through the schedule last year and kind of look like this top team, especially when Utah was picked to win the conference. And so I think, whether it was Retzlaff, whether it's, whomever else out there, I think this Utah team feels really confident this year that they've got what it takes, but it's the rivalry. Anything can happen. You would have expected BYU to kind of wipe the floor with Utah based on how their season went last year. And it was a, 1-point game that came down to the last second. So it's a fun rivalry. It does mean more that these two are now back in a conference together. In the time that they weren't in a conference, it was just kind of a game that really didn't add much value, and it was too much emotion to really change things. But this now provides some extra motivation, and you're seeing that in the fan base. You're seeing that in the schools. They're alleging different things about each other, and it's just kind of entertaining in some respects and frustrating in another.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Josh Furlong with us, KSL Sports on Utah, many things Utah, and Kyle Whittingham, as they try to bounce back after both Utah and Oklahoma State blew a tire last year. There was one comment when we discussed the injuries that Utah had. Oklahoma State, of course, was riddled with them too. At Iowa State, what was it? I have to go back. Somebody from an Iowa State fan brought up their injuries.
They had like no linebackers last year.
Yeah, horrible. Dang it, I thought I had it in the chat. It flips on me a little bit. But they were discussing about Iowa State had a ton of injuries, and they still ended up playing for the Big 12 championship. So some teams get through it. Some teams are good enough, deep enough, don't rely on specific players more than others, although, of course, with Beck, the quarterback, among others. But I wanted to make sure I brought that up about what Iowa State went through, too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few teams you could point to that had some pretty debilitating injuries hit a group, and that included the linebackers for Iowa State. But, yeah, as you said, they navigated around that and found their way to the championship game regardless. So Utah unable to do that, and now they're a different team than they were a year ago, and hopefully don't have to even talk as much about their injured quarterback, as it was basically the talking point every week of their entire season last year. So that alone, I think, just gives everybody a little bit of like, whew, this is nice to not have to do this all the time. And so, I think Utah is a team that certainly looks like they could jump up and go from near the bottom to nearer at the top. Brett McMurphy obviously believes so. I think there's a lot of reason to believe they can do that. I know there's also a lot of people hoping that they have a similar occurrence to last year, just to, really poke at them for being against joining the Big 12, or if it's a BYU thing. I know this. I don't know where Utah is going to finish, although I do think they will be much better than they were a year ago. And I do think they could, if things fall in place, be a contender, because I think pretty much everybody in the Big 12 could be a contender,
Absolutely.
which is the state of the league. And that's why it's unlike a lot of the other leagues. But I do think they're very intriguing. This I do know most of all, though, is that BYU and Utah rivalry, no matter how many times we got told about how nasty it could get or how vicious it could be, it exceeded my expectations. And not necessarily is that a good thing, but boy, oh boy, did I have my eyes open over the last year about just how much they do not like each other, even though there is a lot of similarities and crossover. But yeah, that's without a doubt the most heated rivalry in the league. And Baylor TCU, or there's really not Farmageddon. I know would probably get brought up by some people, although I don't think that's like a blood feud. Baylor TCU is a blood feud. It's not a big one, but for those who know, they know. But it does not compare to Utah and BYU. This is not even close.
It's nasty, man.
Yeah, like Baylor and TCU try to give themselves a cool name, and the students at TCU messed it up.
And what's cooler than freaking Holy War?
That's
badass,
yeah, exactly.
dude.
Nothing.
And so I thought, I was trying to compare it to A&M and Texas, which are, which is I would call their thing codependent more than toxic. Like they have a weird thing where they need each other's.
I think toxic's actually can be very much that, yeah.
But it's even maybe beyond them a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of like that. It may be worse because I don't know.
I think it's been very clear over the last few days. It's very toxic.
Yeah, it's very toxic.
Everything online is, but and not even just the last few days, but last few days because of the Retzloff story in particular. And I did see swaths of BYU fans who were blaming Utah for providing this girl and basically intentionally setting Retzloff up to violate, going that down the pathway, So that's kind of where that went in some circles with the toxicity. But it's very much a part of this rivalry. Like there is a respect, there is a crossover, but there is very much a toxic element and a real hatred between those two sides.
Do you think A&M and Texas is toxic? That's why I
don't think it's as toxic as this one.
I think it's petty at times.
Theirs is a little codependent because they have this. They sing about each other in the songs. Like they've kind of admitted they need each other a little bit. Like
I think if A&M was a bit better,
it maybe
then there would be more reason to, because I feel like Texas still looks down a little bit on A&M. Not the way they look down on everybody else that's in the state or whatever. But like they respect A&M, but they don't respect them on their same level.
Yeah, because everything that A&M's tried to do, Texas has also done.
And done better.
Yeah. And they haven't done a lot of those things. Like I said, A&M's tried to do.
Right.
Texas has College World Series wins. And they have, deep runs in the NCAA
modern day football
tournament.
National titles.
Yeah, modern day football national titles that matter. And now, not that those other ones didn't, no offense to Dana X Bible, but it's just different. So there's nothing that A&M can do short of doing those things to get Texas to be like, oh, well, they're for real.
I think theirs is more like a brothers type of thing, like the older brother and the little brother, where, you ultimately have a lot of respect, I think, even though the older brother will never quite let the young brother know that and will always dunk on them every chance they get. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I feel like it's more cordial, certainly, than BYU Utah. BYU Utah doesn't feel like brothers. It feels like the big brother of one side and the big brother of the other side are coming to defend their little brothers, and like there's nothing that's off limits, and they're gonna like bring everything to the party and try to kill each other. I mean, they do not get along, and yet there is a level of respect. It just gets lost in all of the other stuff. So yeah, it was something we heard about, but seeing it in full and especially the way that game ended last year.
Yeah, and then
Mark Harlan comes out after. I mean, that whole to-do just added more and more gasoline onto that already big fire. So yeah, it was unique.
It was a great ending. If you didn't have any emotion in the game, you hate to see a game end because of this or that. But yeah, that just added to the ending because of the grab, the tug, the call, and eventually the BYU winning the game. Fight on. When we were discussing, I think I said Utah and Oklahoma State blew a tire. Blow a tire? They totaled the entire vehicle.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oklahoma State didn't win a conference game.
God, that's hard.
That's really just hard to wrap your head around. And then with Utah, to go from number one in the conference poll, I mean, you could, if you want to, point to them and say, well, this is the reason why people aren't allowed to vote in the poll anymore, because they all thought Utah was going to win. Utah finished, 13th or 14th last year. But, yeah, that was disastrous. And then theirs was really amplified, though, by the fact that they had a segment of their fans, and I don't know how much that segment spoke for the majority or the minority, but they were loud enough to be heard, and they were the ones that most Big 12 fans who in this moment of time where it's all about like conference pride suddenly, that really rubbed people the wrong way. So it made them a bunch of new enemies right out of the gate. And then when they faltered and Cam Rising couldn't stay healthy, it was a bad year for Utah across the board. I mean, they had everything and everybody seemingly going against them. And so I think that's why you believe this year is going to turn out better. And can't possibly go as badly as last year did for you, but we'll see.
All right, when we come back, that's fun. That was fun. Josh Furlong with us covers Utah, and really from KSL covers quite a bit of the state. Derek Young, K-State Online. Bracket Cat, I'm saying it. You have times when we don't have enough K-State, coverage. You want to know why. So now we have an analyst coming on to talk about K-State, and you're wondering, well, why not somebody else? Man, you are something else, buddy. You are something else.
I'm going to tell you, Bracket Cat, I guarantee you, sends back a lot of food, which also means that Bracket Cat is probably eating a lot of stuff he didn't want to eat.
Yeah, my mom and dad,
didn't know he was eating.
If they got French fries and they weren't crispy enough, my dad, my God, every time would send it back until they basically had become toasted.
Was he polite about it though?
No, not.
It's hard. I don't like to send food back unless it's raw. I was at a place and the waitress sold me on the pork chops, and I said, "Oh, great, okay, I'll have the pork chops." And they came out and they were not done, which means trichinosis. So I was like, "Hey, I really hate to do this, but these are not done." And her reaction was not the level of what I wanted of like, oh crap, I gave you raw meat. She was just like, oh. So then they brought him back and I immediately lost my appetite. And the rest of the people at the table said, you're not going to eat? I'm like,
pork chop, there's got to be a certain, there can be some pinkness, but it's got to be got to be careful.
It was full on. I'd have been in the hospital.
Still had the bell on it.
Yeah. Yeah. A little pain. Like, yeah, I know. Like when I cut into it,
yeah.
So I told the people at the table, like, did you not clock that reaction? It wasn't, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. It was, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, no, this is not good. I can't, I've lost my appetite now because I did take a bite too. Like I cut it and I took a bite and I chewed on it. And I was like,
Yeah. All right. Well,
I was like, no, I can't.
Cat. I think I'm going to start just responding to the old barn cat go K-State.
Yeah. Bracket Cat, I love you. I don't know.
We do, but it's like, we have Chris Kleiman next week. Why isn't it Bill Snyder? We'll have Avery Johnson next week. Why isn't it Michael Bishop?
We've had Michael Bishop a lot.
We've had Bill Snyder.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, Derek Young, K-State online. He's next. This is 365 Sports. As I started back earlier this year to try to maintain my weight, lose a little bit of that because I'd gained 8 to 10 pounds. So I just didn't feel that great. My lower back was still bothering me. Then it was the shoulder, and I don't run anymore. It's just not something I can do because of my hip, but I can walk, jog. And I've started doing that basically every morning, even occasionally on the weekend. So that's what I've been doing, walking, jogging 3 miles, still going to the gym, and then having whatever else is available to me because of all the equipment they have. It's amazing. Inside Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Lost weight, felt good, maintained it. I'm down to 188 to 192. And remember, my journey started a long time ago at just over 280 pounds. And now there's a brand new equipment called Synergy 360 in the weight room. This thing is a beast, an 800-pound gorilla. Check it out. 3 cable systems, a single arm low row, adjustable rebounder, straight pull-up bar, battle rope, and more. And any of the trainers there can help guide you and demonstrate for you. It is phenomenal. That's where you get yourself in a position to be fit, lose weight, feel better about yourself every day. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be in Frisco, Texas. Thanks to Alan Samuels House of Travel. They've set us up with an Airbnb. We'll all be there, even Emery. And then Paul, all of us will convene at the Star in Frisco, Cowboys headquarters, for Tuesday and also Wednesday. Derek Young, K-State Online, covers Kansas State, joins us on 365 Sports. Derek, thank you very much for your time. Great to have you on the show. So we've discussed a lot of teams in the Big 12. You know that, but let's discuss K-State. They've been knocking on the door, man, and they have Avery Johnson back for another year with even more experience, and they're going to be good. What are the expectations? What's the minimum requirement to satisfy the K-State fan base?
It's, to be honest, yet they have to compete for a Big 12 championship. They have to probably make it to Arlington or the fan base collectively, I think, would probably see it as a disappointment. That those are high stakes. Those are high expectations. It's a high bar to clear, but there's not a guarantee of a whole lot longer of a window when Avery Johnson is your quarterback. And if he comes and goes without any trophies or rings, I think it'll be seen as, underachieving. So they have to strike. The window is now. They won the Big 12 in 2022, and they were seen as still contenders in both 23 and 24, quite frankly, but just missed or had a couple games not go their way, the bounce not go their way, and ultimately they weren't competing in Arlington. But if they aren't competing in Arlington this year, the pressure and the chatter is going to amp up even further. I think that they have to get there. I think they will get there, but they don't have the easiest schedule to navigate like some of the other programs that they'll be competing with. So there are some hurdles to clear, but they got to get there or there will be a lot of disappointment.
Avery Johnson looked to improve incrementally as a passer. I don't want to give him he's Peyton Manning all of a sudden, but he improved incrementally as a passer. Now, they maybe did not have all the weapons that they wanted at that position. They're down a very good running back this year, but that's never seemed to be a problem for them.
Right.
Is the wide receiver position improved enough so that he can keep improving?
It's a good question because I agree that they probably weren't where they needed to be at wide receiver for him. He made his share of mistakes. That's Avery Johnson, but the receiver talent probably wasn't good enough yet to maybe compete at a Big 12 championship level like many would have wanted them to do. But he also went through his growing pains last year as well. The BYU game instantly comes to mind where things really snowballed on him, and he made mistake after mistake when playing in probably a really, really tough environment for the first time in his college career as a starting quarterback. So the fact that maybe they weren't where they needed to be last year probably wasn't as limiting as it was that Avery just needed that experience and needed to go through those growing pains. You just don't come into college football or an instant success. That 99.9% of the time that doesn't happen. You need to take your lumps, and I think Avery Johnson did, and I expect him to be incredibly better this year from a decision-making standpoint where he needs to be a lot better, and from a footwork standpoint where he needs to be a lot better in order to improve his accuracy. But from a receiver standpoint, which was the original question, I understand, I think they are better when it comes to their top three, the starters, so to speak, that they will count on. Jace Brown had more yards as a sophomore, receiving yards as a sophomore in Kansas State history than any receiver ever, more than Jordy Nelson, more than Tyler Lockett. So he's nothing to sneeze at. I think he's all Big 12 caliber. And I think Jerron Tibbs, the transfer from Purdue, will be all Big 12 caliber. And if you put people up to a lie detector test in the Veneer Football Family Complex in Manhattan, they might tell you that Jerron Tibbs is the best Kansas State wide receiver this year, even better than Jace Brown, which is a good thing to have both. And then Jaron Bradley would be your third guy that'll likely start for Kansas State. And for those that don't remember, there was a point when he was at Texas Tech where he was so good and so productive that he was a preseason all Big 12 first team selection at one point.
So, Derek, there are freak 5-star freshmen that roll in and they make big impacts. Jeremiah Smith, for example. Yep. But you cover long enough and you realize freshmen take some time more often than not. What are we expecting from the highest-rated K-State signee ever in Lincoln Cure? I mean, it is as immediate contribution obviously on the table, and beyond that, what can you tell us about what the talk is and what the expectation is for this 5-star tight end?
Yeah, absolutely. And kids, they kind of went through this 2 years ago, even though he wasn't a projected starter, with Avery Johnson. Everybody wanted to see him, and ultimately Will Howard was your starting quarterback at the time. So there was some pressure taken off of him, and it probably will be for Lincoln Cure too. Everyone wants to talk about Lincoln Cure, 5-star tight end, highest signing ever for Kansas State, and I get that. And he will play probably in every game, barring injury. I think they will look for ways for him to make an impact and to get on the field. But something to keep in mind, and this will probably lend itself to a different usage for him in year one, is that Kansas State probably brings back the best tight end room collectively, even without him, in the entire Big 12. They had 4 different tight ends catch a touchdown last year, and all 4 returned. They led the nation in touchdown catches for all tight ends and as a team. So they were kind of stacked already at the tight end position. I can honestly say Garrett Oakley, who will probably be the number 1 tight end, there was teams like Texas that tried to lure him into the portal. So Kansas State was already pretty talented at tight end to begin with. But Lincoln Cure is so good, they won't be able to keep him off the field. I'm not saying he'll even have 20 catches this year. I'm not sure he'll even reach that mark. But they will find ways to get him on the field, maybe in a limited capacity each game. We'll see. And it might even be more as a wide receiver in the early stages than even as a tight end, just because his body type and his athleticism probably lends itself to that in the early stages.
So you mean like the way that some of these hybrid tight ends have worked in the NFL that are tight ends, but they're really not. They're more like, well, they're not slot receivers, but they do go down the seams and they can get down the field?
Yeah, like a flexed out tight end. Like we saw Georgia use Brock Bowers so many times that way. It could be of that nature for sure.
You cover recruiting quite a bit as part of your expertise as well. Where are they? K-State also has always been really good about development and finding the diamonds in the rough. That's kind of what they have to do, along with a lot of schools in the Big 12. Your thoughts about where they are?
Yeah, they are in a spot right now with high school recruiting in the class of 2026 where, from a fan standpoint, they're probably not ranked where fans would want them to be ranked. And they have a few guys that I think are probably underrated and probably should get a boost. And some of them are Texans, like offensive lineman Justin Morales, for example. I think he's got a chance to really shoot up the rankings. A defensive tackle from Oklahoma, Kingston Hall, I think he has a chance to shoot up the rankings. And maybe their team ranking looks a little bit better once those things come to fruition, and I think they will. But at the end of the day, it's interesting. It's a different era of college football, so it's probably a different conversation to have. But what I would say is, like, you have 3 different ways to basically invest financially, and that's what it is anymore, right? You're basically have a budget, you have a payroll, you're doling out salary, so to speak. You pay via the transfer portal, you pay via high school recruiting, and you pay via roster retention. Those are the 3 levers, the 3 arms, so to speak, of college football right now, and you have to pay to get those things. And what I will say is I think Kansas State is a little bit lesser to use right now on the high school front because they realize that they have a window here to win a Big 12 championship with Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, Jace Brown, Toby Osunsami at defensive end, Austin Romaine at linebacker, VJ Payne at safety, the best players. A lot of their best players they spent on heavily to come back for this year. And then they invested in the transfer portal pretty heavily, especially at offensive line with, examples being JB Nelson, who could play right tackle, who came over from Penn State, George Fitzpatrick, who came from Ohio State. That will probably be your starting left tackle. So I think Kansas State right now, at least in the current time frame and structure that we are in, invested a lot heavier in the transfer portal and roster retention.
By the way, Derek, if you want that class of 26 to get better numbers, stars, et cetera, just have them commit to LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, whatever, because the ratings go straight out the roof, right? That's kind of the way it is if you're a K-State, Iowa State, et cetera.
Yeah, that happens for sure. There's actually a 4-star receiver from Lubbock, Texas right now that is just announced the top 3 of Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Baylor. And I think K-State's got a chance for him, and that could definitely shift things as well.
Derek, I never worry about K-State on defense, ever. Like, I just know that, like, it's going to be good. I mean, and the way that you talk about it sounds like that's the case. Am I wrong to think that, not that it doesn't matter who's there, but yeah. Chris Kleiman, of course, Bill Snyder knew how to do this, that since they build their team with that maybe in mind first, that even a mediocre year is still going to be pretty good defense by modern standards?
I would say so. My only detractor from that statement would be I think the secondary hurt them last year for the first time in the Chris Kleiman era. Now, that's a small sample size, right? That it happened once in 6 or 7 seasons under Chris Kleiman, and I doubt it happens again. And it happened even though they had 2 NFL draft picks in the secondary. But sometimes, you're not as good as your best player. You're only as good as your worst player. And that worst player at times was too bad, right? So I think part of why they went from 7-1 to 8-4 last year was I don't think their secondary play was as good as it had been in prior years under Chris Kleiman. And on top of that, they had special teams issues out the wazoo. They couldn't snap the ball at times. They had long snapper that had the yips, so that was a problem. They had the worst, I think, average starting field position or field position difference in the entire Big 12. So those are issues that they wanted to remedy, and they thought they ran out of gas, which is probably a good conclusion to reach when you go from 7-1 to 8-4.
Mm-hmm. Derek, is there anything at Media Days next week before we let you go that you're just dying to ask? I mean, I know we're talking kind of in general and a little in depth as well, but you're obviously on that beat every day. There's a difference when you're getting it down to like the nuts and bolts. So what are you most interested in Frisco next week?
Yeah, who are going to be the cornerbacks, on the island that you're going to count on? Because you just lost Jacob Parrish to the NFL. Keenan Garber is gone. He graduated. So you have an entire different cornerback room, basically. So if we're talking about nuts and bolts, I think that's a big area that needs addressed, or at least is an area where we don't have the answers. So I think that there's something to that. And I wonder, do they get a little bit more pass happier now that Avery Johnson has a year under his belt? Now, maybe they don't tell us that anyways, even if we do ask. That those are typically things that are almost embargoed to an extent. I get that. But you have a new offensive coordinator, right? And Matt Wells, who's a quarterback coach. And to be honest, I think that they're going to benefit from the quarterback coach once again being the offensive coordinator. I know it can work in several different ways, but my preference of what I think works more efficiently, more effectively, is when your quarterback coach is the offensive coordinator rather than the offensive line coach.
Derek, thank you very much, man. Appreciate your time. Derek Young, K-State Online with us on 365 Sports. He was talking about the receiver who has his threesome down to K-State, Texas Tech, right there in his backyard, and also Baylor. Somebody mentioned that that guy committed. You're thinking about Panther Creek out of Frisco, defensive back safety Donovan Webb, who committed about an hour ago.
Yeah, I think he's talking about Chase Campbell,
yes,
if I'm correct.
Yeah. Who's right there in Tech's backyard, so you would think of the three, you would lean that way, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely assume he's going to stay closer to home because I would do that with anybody. So if he was growing up right outside of Manhattan, I would assume that K-State would be the choice. But yeah, Chase Campbell's from Friendship, so that's or Wolfforth Friendship, the school. So that's right there in Tech's backyard. And yeah, I looked at the crystal ball, and I don't know if it's just like outdated or what, but doesn't. Maybe this is a basketball profile I'm looking at here. So I don't know. I'll have to go look somewhere else to see what the percentages were on here as far as predictions go. But, yeah, a really talented player with a lot of nice offers, and looking at On3 because their page just popped up better. Looks pretty even between Tech, Baylor, and it doesn't have Oklahoma, or it doesn't have Kansas State listed here. So am I thinking of the right guy? I could assume it's Chase Campbell.
I saw it earlier today, and he's Cody Campbell's adopted son.
No, yeah, he's definitely not. But that would help, right? Whatever it takes.
I am Cody Campbell. If he was,
he's about to be.
Suddenly had a family of 105 stars.
But like, say he was, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to Kansas State. And Cody Campbell would be like, after all I've done for you,
how many oil wells do you want?
You didn't get adopted by just some run of the mill family. Like they made the show Landman about me, man.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I know we got another guest coming up, but do you want to hold off on this LSU thing, or you want to mention it right here?
No, we're done with till Mark Daniels at 5.
Go ahead.
Well, it's 4:50.
Who got in trouble with LSU this time?
No, it's nobody getting in trouble, but it is college football, maybe going more of the direction that a lot of people don't want it to go, but a direction that was always inevitable given the path that we started walking on a couple years ago, and that is sponsor patches on jerseys and things of that nature. Somebody was going to be the first to jump into that ring, right? And I don't know if there's been somebody else to announce this, but LSU is now on the record as saying that they plan to sell jersey patch advertisements pending NCAA approval, according to NOLA News down there in the Big Easy. They said that LSU's actually already got the mock-ups done for all of their various sports to have a jersey patch. They also mentioned in the article that it will be on the chest, I believe. So I was thinking I don't know if people have seen this. In baseball, everybody's got the sponsorships now, and that's been the case for a few years. And generally, you might notice it, but it's not that big of a deal. But I was watching the Mariners recently, and I know the Nintendo Switch 2 just came out. And so they were wearing this big old red block with like the Nintendo word or logo or whatever in it. And it just looked like really, I don't know. I just didn't like the look of it. I don't think that's the way that LSU is going to go, but they are going down the road of jersey patch advertisements. And some of the details provided were that they've got them already, I guess, written up for all of their various sports, but this is how they're looking to generate extra avenue. They hope the NCAA will allow schools to sell patch on their jerseys to potentially generate multiple millions of dollars a year in doing so. LSU's mapped out where each patch would go on each individual uniform for each individual sport, from cross country to football. Most of them would appear on the chest in purple and gold. So maybe there will be the case of a sleeve. Just don't make it as gaudy as that Nintendo Switch Mariners logo. But most of them would appear on the chest in purple and gold. Meanwhile, a program official said they don't want to have some crazy NASCAR-like situation, and they want to be fairly self-contained with their advertisements. So there you go. LSU, if they get NCAA approval, will go through with it. And guess what? If they get it, then everybody else is going to go and get it.
Remember, and glad somebody brought this up, Eli Letterman, I'm looking at a story last year in August. The NCAA blocked Oklahoma State from placing NIL-linked QR codes on the players' football helmets after the program announced they would. And then they were told they can't.
Well, the spring game, Colorado had like the Twitter handles, and then there's some stuff like that. But yeah, I remember that with Oklahoma State as well, with the QR codes. Doesn't say anything about that in this article. It did I looked at a couple of different write-ups, but in the On3 mention of it, they cited a quote from Scott Strickland at Florida, who had talked about previously putting the sponsor logos on the field, which a lot of people have talked about that being a logical next step, and they're all looking for new revenue streams. And so this was inevitable that jersey patches of some sort would be a part of the equation. Greg Sankey's talked about it before, and he mentioned how it's, like a bowl game, you wear a big patch on your jersey, right? Some of them are gaudier than others or cooler looking than others, but he said that this was probably a next step. And so LSU, just one of the first ones out there to say, like, hey, if you give us approval, we're going to do this, and we've already got it all ready to go.
If they get it approved, Oklahoma State should put QR codes on their helmets or wherever they want on their butt.
That's slightly different. That's a QR code, not a
I know.
Texaco patch or whatever.
It'd be hard to get the QR code as the guy's like running by.
Right.
Yeah, I never did quite understand. Unless it's a shot of a huddle. Oh, they don't do those anymore, right?
It's a neat idea, and I could see that inevitably being a part of this in some form or fashion. But the jersey patches, that's a no-brainer that you knew that was coming, and now we're here at that crossroads of whether that's going to be allowed or not. And I have a really hard time. And either of you can disagree if you want to. I doubt that you will, though. I have a really hard time believing they're going to be told, no, you can't do this. So jersey patches are on their way.
Yeah, because what they're going to do is like, hey, we need money. Jersey patches are a thing. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, thanks for asking, but go ahead. And then everybody's going to do it. I guess
Well, if the NCAA said no, they'd be like, all right, here's one more stake in your grave, and we're going to be moving on from you soon anyways.
Yeah, do you guys know about all the money? Is that just something that like flies in one ear and out the other? So yeah, I'm just going to be. I just want them to go full European soccer where the name of the company is on the jersey.
I tell you, this is a little bit of a hotter topic though, because it won't go down the road, I believe, of where you're watching European soccer and you're like, who is T-Mobile sponsoring? Who is this team? Oh, it's Manchester or whoever the hell this is. You can't tell because it doesn't even say their name on stuff. But there's some jerseys that have a nice mix of both. But there was a long time I was watching some soccer teams and I was like, I have no idea who I'm watching because it doesn't say. It just says like Telemundo on it or something.
Yeah.
WNBA is very much like that now. But college football, man, the uniforms are so important. Yeah. Like there's such a passion of people. Every little element of college football is. And so, Yeah, it's not necessarily any different than the bowl patch, and some of those are obnoxious, but it's just a matter of who's going to take it to the extreme, because that's everything in college sports. It's like a little bit's cool. Give them an inch, though. Somebody's going to take a mile, and it's like, who's going to be that? And then they've got like the most gaudiest, they're slapping it on the side of the helmet rather than the school logo. I don't think we'll ever get that far, but who the hell knows? I mean, at this point.
No. I never thought we'd see it on anybody's jerseys, and now you see it even with the Yankees or whoever else.
But there is a way to do it to where it's not super distracting. Like if you watch baseball, it can be Nintendo Switch patch for the Mariners, big red block. But there's other times it just blends in. So I guess it'll all be about the execution. And if it's purple and gold and, it's not some super weird logo, then I think you'll probably ignore it after a while.
We have Mark Daniels in a second. Who would be the patch if you did one for Paul, Florida State, that made sense?
That made sense? I mean, it wouldn't be – I mean, I hope it'd be corporate, but they're big Coca-Cola people.
Okay. Yeah. Who would it be? LSU? Zatarans? Who would it be? Would it make sense?
Abita.
Probably Zatarans or something like that.
Should be. What's the name of that damn oysters place with the great Dragos?
Oh,
right?
Dragos, yeah.
If it's
R&O's, baby.
There's some New Orleans native is like, oh, you simple-minded tourists with your Dragos recommendations. But I got to feel like even they like it down there, right? I mean, so that gets some respect at least. But I don't think you'll have like an individual restaurant. I know you're just joking, but
all right.
Florida
like
State
Oklahoma,
would be Publix.
Oklahoma,
Publix would be good for Florida State. Actually,
Publix,
Publix would be perfect for Florida State. For Oklahoma, I would imagine it would be something along like the Thunder have Loves, or something like Sonic. I think would be up Oklahoma's alley.
LSU Raising Cane's.
Sure.
Landry's Seafood Restaurant.
What would Brahms for Oklahoma?
Brahms. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and they're also
small, maybe.
It might also, Brahms. I mean, anything like that. But it also, I wonder who's going to swoop in and be like that random one that you get. That's not like the big American brand, but that's like Miller and Sons law firm. That kind of thing. Who's going to splurge like $20 million one year to get their name on the LSU jersey or whatever? This will be very lucrative, though.
So who is going to be the LSU sponsor?
There's not one yet.
Okay.
They don't have approval, but I'm sure they've got that lined up
Okay.
so that when they get approval, which they inevitably will, because this is an obvious money generator for schools that are now looking for money. So, NCAA, go ahead and tell them no while you can, because pretty soon you're not going to have a choice on any matter if you tell them no on something like this, I feel like. So this is inevitable. But they didn't single out who that would be yet.
Well, who would USC use?
Well, see, like for example, like Texas.
There's a joke in the chat room that I'll bring it up.
But Texas, for example, could be anybody like a Buc-ee's or something, which that would be kind of fun.
Is Texas
still
around?
But also, it could be like Dell.
Yeah,
That would actually be very obvious for Texas to have somebody like that. So it could be a mix. It doesn't have to be just like the McDonald's logo. It can be some corporation that does whatever other kind of stuff on there. But
Somebody said for Baylor's Scruffy Murphy's.
Scruffy Murphy's.
The bar that never ends.
Well, that would have to mean that Baylor would have to acknowledge that it exists.
They have to say they're in partnership with Scruffy Murphy's. I don't think so, pal. But that's a good one.
So
somebody mentioned USC would be Trojan.
Yeah, hey, that's
pretty sharp.
There's a what do they call it? Synergy. Is that the term there in business?
Yeah.
There's a synergy there.
Yep.
With Trojans, so that might actually be not that bad of an idea.
Alan said Oklahoma would be sponsored by some televangelist food bucket.
Televangelist. I mean, I guess. No, I don't think they'd have any problem with getting a pretty big sponsor. Like I said, Love's that does the Thunder, Sonic is big up there, or whatever.
Or
I
casino
guess
patch.
The question would be, what is off limits? Like, can you do alcohol, or can you do?
Well,
what would be the
there
rules?
was a time you couldn't sell beer in college football stadium.
Yeah.
We know that even like Baylor has to be wondering about. Man, that's not a bad coin right there. When we come back, he's the voice of UCF athletics, Mark Daniels. Hope you've enjoyed what we've had the first couple of hours. If you won't mind or wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate your time. And this is 365 Sports. It's 4th of July, and it's a huge sale. It's coming up, of course, Friday. And right now, Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat get up to $13,000 off. Brand new 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star. $13,000 off, or choose a rock bottom 1.9% APR for 72 months. Also, it's again, your pick. Also, the Texas Strong Ram Lone Star, ready to haul, tow, and turn heads all summer long. You have a chance, $13,000 off MSR, or $13,000 off, or 1.9% financing for 72 months. Only these deals through Friday, which is, of course, 4th of July. One more thing, the 2024 Dodge Charger Scat Pack, loaded with navigation, all-wheel drive, scorching $18,000 off MSRP. Up until 4th of July is over, 670 horses, pure American muscle, $18,000 just in time for Independence Day. Tearing it up on the pavement or cruising in style. Remember, on 4th of July, after that's over, these deals are over. Maybe some carry over, I don't know. But right now, go to Allen Samuels, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco with CEO and General Manager Ted Teague.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Voice of UCF Athletics, our great friend Mark Daniels. I reached out to Mark earlier today, and I don't think you'll mind me sharing that. He goes, for you guys, anything. We appreciate it. For you too, Mark. Look forward to you. We'll see you next week, or making sure or not.
You'll see me, but I'm a little bit concerned. I got the invite today. Does that mean I missed the cut for next week? I'm like the rock band that gets the 5:05 Friday start of the festival that doesn't get the primetime audience. So, but I'm happy to be here anytime.
Oh, my God.
We didn't want to have to bump you for a coach. That's just it. I mean, it's happened to me like 3 times at Big 12 Media Days where I go over and I'm like, you guys ready? And they're like, oh, no. Matt Campbell's coming over here. I'm like,
yeah.
All right. Well,
no, it's all good.
Yeah.
Yes, I will see you guys in Frisco next week. Looking forward to it.
The electricity at your football stadium is fantastic. And everyone knows about it, the bounce house or whatever. Now they've gone through the change in the corporate name, etc., but it's the bounce house. Your thoughts about the change and how is everyone everyone love what's going on?
Yeah, I think FBC Mortgage has been owned by Acrisure for quite some time now. It's an official name change. The great thing is it's an awesome partnership. So what's exciting, though, is that the parties involved wanted to be creative. Acrisure Stadium's where the Steelers play, and they did not want to duplicate that name. And obviously the nickname for UCF Stadium has been the Bounce House, because if you've ever been there, it literally bounces. And when they came up with Acrisure Bounce House, everyone's like, yes, that works. So I think fans were excited that, hear about a name change in this corporate sponsorship. How do you generate revenue? World, you always kind of wonder what's going to be. But I think fans were excited when they hear Acrisure Bounce House. UCF's proud of its home tradition. 18 seasons. They've lost just 30 home games, 85-30 all time. So I think people are excited to now have the Bounce House be officially part of the name for UCF moving forward.
Mark, do you I know that there's going to have the quarterback competition, but as you get closer, they're not bringing a quarterback to media days, which would be kind of silly given the fact that they're going to have this big competition. But do you have any idea who it's going to be really, or is it really wide open at the competition?
Yeah, it's funny when UCF announced players they're going to bring to Frisco, people are like, they didn't announce a quarterback. And I think Scott Frost comes out of spring with a better idea about what he has. And I'm not quite sure they know if we had a game on Saturday, they feel, okay, this is the absolute perfect person for us. I wouldn't read much into it that they're not bringing somebody out there. Look, Taven Jackson's a guy that was at Tennessee, at Indiana. He's 6'4", 215. He certainly can look the part, but I'm not quite sure that he or anybody else really stood out, which means two things. One, do they have anybody? Or two, there was good competition. And I think Scott Frost kind of felt like we're not ready to name a starter. Let's take this into early August. Cam Fancher played at FAU in Marshall. He's got some starter experience. He has some dynamic things to him. Ja'Carri Brown was here last year. He played at Miami. He looks the part, 6'4", 220. And I just feel like they know they've got some talent. How to use it properly? Did you have to have somebody that is announced early August? I'm not quite sure they're in a hurry to do that. Scott Frost now, Mackenzie Milton's a quarterback coach. I think they feel like, look, we'll begin camp, get a better idea where we're at, and ultimately choose a starter. I'd be surprised if Scott doesn't name someone waiting to the week of the first game. He'll probably do that a couple of weeks before. But look, they needed to solidify a roster, feel as if we've got competition at quarterback. Maybe the quarterback for the future for UCF is not on campus yet. Maybe, could it be some of these freshmen they're looking at bringing in? But I think they'll feel good about eventually choosing somebody with guys that all offer something that just didn't jump off the chart compared to everybody else coming out of spring.
Mark, were you disappointed, or did you get a good laugh out of the Big 12's media poll headline last week about eliminating that after last year? I mean, I get it from the standpoint of you don't want to kind of set this narrative for your schools, but I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that news last week?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not that big of a deal. You could do a poll, and Scott Frost has used a little bit of motivation to his team, where some other people have picked UCF to finish last or 15th, and you kind of use that to go, this is what they think of you, not go out and prove them wrong. And oh, by the way, here's what happened to last year's team that was picked down there. So I kind of get it. I don't know if it was necessary to do. I don't think coaches or players are overly offended. I think fans have some fun with it, but I don't think it was necessary, and nor do I think UCF would have been offended if they were towards that bottom. I understand it was a huge roster turnover. They've got almost 70 new players, but we'll see as the season gets going. But to me, it would have been fine to keep it.
There was so much excitement about when all the realignment occurred and UCF able to be a part of what is considered a Power Four conference. The first year, 6 and 7, they went to a bowl game. Then last year, it didn't go well. Has the excitement died down any, or is it just as high as it was before?
No, I think there's a level of excitement, and I think a big part of that is the return of Scott Frost. I think I've been on a couple of times, and I'll say it again. Gus Malzahn's a good man. He's a good coach. I wish him well at Florida State. It just didn't work out. I think Gus tried we got to hit heavy in the portal, and sometimes it's hit or miss. And we missed on a lot of guys last year, and then the season kind of, got away from you. Terry Mohajir, the AD, had some choices, had a lot of people interested in the UCF job. He could have hired some other people that may not have generated the offseason excitement that doesn't guarantee you wins, but he hired Scott Frost, and because of Scott's past here, it was a level of excitement that UCF couldn't match as far as, guaranteeing a sold-out stadium again, a belief that, hey, he knows who we are. And I think Gus struggled with that a little bit, that we're not in the SEC. We don't have the same resources. I think Scott, even though it's been quite a change from the last time he was here, understands where UCF needs to operate, got to be smart, got to play a little money ball, particularly now in this rev share era. So I think the return of Scott, the history, him kind of getting what UCF is and using some of the same things that he did back then on a different level in the Big 12 has generated that excitement again. And I think it's also a realistic excitement. I don't think, the UCF fan base says, hey, 9 wins or it's a bad year. I think what UCF fans expect is show me progression, that by the time we get towards the middle of the season, I can see improvements. By the time we get to the end of the year, I kind of see where we're going and give Scott the chance to continue to build the roster he wants. And then you kind of go from there. And I think Scott's been quite open with fans saying, look, we got some work to do. We got to recruit smart. We got to play the portal smart. We're not going to, just go heavy in the portal. We've got to get back and convince high school coaches in this state to send players here. I think they're finding out players that are from Florida that went elsewhere to Power 4 schools, like the idea of coming back to Orlando. So, for now, UCF, I think, is structuring things a little bit different than other schools because of where we're at right now. But the answer to your question along when you get there is I think there's a lot of excitement with Scott coming back to a place he had success at.
Mark, what do you think the immediate strengths can be with this team in year one, knowing what Scott Frost, it's not like you guys have to wonder what kind of system he's going to implement. You've seen it. What are they going to be?
So offensively, as Scott has said, it used to be called UCF fast. And back in the American, UCF was able to out-athlete and outspeed people. We just had better players because of the state of Florida being able to recruit at that level. We had the highest budget in the American. So they were able to out-athlete people. Obviously now 2 years in the Big 12, understanding the physical play of the Big 12. Scott has said publicly a number of times, you have to construct a roster a bit different in the Big 12. He knows the Big 12 clearly from going back, connection, and still recruiting against people in this conference. So he knew UCF had to get tougher, better on the line, and be smart in how you add people to what you are bringing in on the high school level. The strength of this football team, I think, as the year begins, is going to be their defensive front. They bring back a couple of really talented defensive ends. They get John Walker, a very talented defensive tackle back that missed last year with a knee injury. They brought some transfers in there. I think linebacker, they may be really good. Kelly Lawson came from Virginia Tech that I think can help them. Lewis Carter from Oklahoma. Their front 6-7, I think, is good. The secondary is a chance to be good. Offensively, it's going to be a process that grows. I think running back, they're going to be fine. The offensive line is a spot that Gus missed the last 2 years. They've got to be better there. So I think UCF tried to find some guys that can plug in and play. I think their offense from the first game of the season against Jacksonville State to the last game at BYU is going to be significantly different, meaning they'll get better as the year goes along. You'll see Scott, I think, more comfortable opening up a playbook. It may be more vanilla when the season starts because they don't have depth at wide receiver, a bunch of new guys coming in. You've got to find the right mix of offensive linemen. You've got to get it right at quarterback while playing some really good defenses. But I think Scott feels confident about what he wants to build offensively, but it's going to be different than the UCF fast in 2017 and even when Josh Heupel came in to take over in 2018 and 19 because of the competition and just where UCF's at right now.
So how will Scott Frost be different than when he was there the first time, if at all?
Well, I think there are some differences. Look, we're all older and wiser, and I think Scott learned a lot about the challenges at Nebraska. I think Scott coming back here, some stuff even off the field. He's very public about his family, his wife and his kids. He openly talks about, hey, football can't be everything. He loves to go fishing with his son, and that's a different Scott clearly from the first time he was here, where he was just recently married and just had his first child. But he's more open about that. I think he has hired a really good coaching staff and surrounded himself. Sean Clark was the head coach at Appalachian State. He's the offensive line coach. I think guys like that have experience are going to help Scott kind of maybe give him the answer that he needs to hear as opposed to the answer that other people think he just wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, look, I think Scott has admitted he wasn't going to get a head coaching job from any place else in college football. But because of UCF and the connection here, and he's grateful for the opportunity to come back, he wants to get it right. And that doesn't mean, hey, we got to be undefeated in 2025. I just think he feels like he's got a chance to build something. He feels comfortable back here at places that he knows, even driving to work in the morning and seeing people that were here in 2016 and 17. So I think he knows it's a unique opportunity. He has said many times he would have been comfortable staying on Sean McVay's staff and giving the NFL a try to grow there. But I see a different Scott, more relaxed. I see a more mature Scott, and I see somebody that says, I know this place. This place was good to me, and I want to bring them back to that level and compete in a power league. And I think he understands, again, our resources are different than others, but I think he feels like there's enough talent within a stone's throw here to continue to recruit and take UCF to a level that they can compete year in and year out. Not easy, but I think he feels like he's got supportive administration to say, hey, this isn't a one-year fix. This is a growing process, and I think they like where they're at right now.
You know, they had, of course, R.J. Harvey, who was spectacular, all-American type player, and he's gone. They have Montgomery back, who had a few carries last year. Boone, that just never worked out. Did he get hurt? And am I wrong with Penny Boone? He just never materialized.
It really clicked.
Yeah,
he's the guy that did a great run of the MAC and just
yep.
kind of got caught in a situation, and then they just relied on RJ, who had a great season.
He was unbelievable. They do get the transfer, Jaden Nixon, who played high school ball in Texas, from Oklahoma State, Western Michigan. So is that a concern in that room, or do they just feel like, because you don't just replace R.J. Harvey. You don't.
No.
So what do they do?
Yeah, actually, guys, I think that's their most talented room right now. Miles Montgomery is really good. He just got caught in a numbers game at Cincinnati, got caught behind R.J. Harvey last year, and now I think a chance to win that job and become a number one back. But I mean, I'll tell you right now, Jay Nixon's really good. Was good at Western Michigan, and he's going to help the competition there. UCF's got some young, talented backs, highly recruited guys. So I think running back is one of their strongest positions. Wide receiver, they lost basically everything. Now, they've got a lot of young talent. Sean Beckton, who's a Hall of Famer at UCF, was here for many years, went with Scott to Nebraska. He's back as that wide receiver coach. And I've heard him tell me a couple of times, we're young, we're green, we're going to take some time to grow. They brought in a couple of transfers that I think with experience can help them, but that's a spot they need some guys to kind of step up in August and connect with the quarterback during these summer drills. But the running back room, I think, is one of the strengths for UCF. Their offensive line, which has struggled the last 2 years. Paul Rubelt's going to be really good at tackle. He's back for his sixth season. Guy 6'9", 6'10", 330 from Germany, has really developed into a good lineman, I think, an NFL prospect. But the running back room's fine. It's who emerges at quarterback, what wide receivers elevate their game, and can that line get better as the year goes along, where that line the last couple of years, as they tried to plug and play, they missed on some guys.
Mark, the state of Florida has allowed universities to pull $22.5 million out of the university fund to assist in revenue sharing. How much of a sigh of relief was that for the UCF athletic department, who, like everyone in the first couple of years, has figured out, like, what pots do we pull from to get our full allotment?
Isn't that crazy how they all find that money so fast?
Yeah.
Wow, huh?
Yeah.
Look, Mike Alford, the AD at Florida State, kind of got the other ADs together to talk about that. For years in this state of Florida, you could not take university funds to help with athletics, and that is different. And very quickly, the State Board of Governors said, yeah, we can do this of ancillary of auxiliary dollars, parking fines and other things, and lo and behold, $22.5 million. Now, the only school that's publicly said they're going to do that is Florida State. Florida, UCF, South Florida, the others have not said what they're willing to do. And that's still to be determined at UCF to what level. You don't have to commit the 22.5. You can give them a little bit. UCF is structured a little bit different. Terry Mahajer, the AD, has publicly said that UCF will fully fund the $20.5 million. And as I've said a couple times out with you guys before, remember, the media money for UCF, those are new dollars. The last couple of years as a half-share member, UCF made about $18 million. Half of that went towards the buyout for the American, which brings it down to about $9 million. Now, if you get whatever it is, 38, 40, 40 plus, that's where UCF's going to use that money for the rev share. It comes out of those new dollars, which is an advantage that they didn't need to have to go find in their athletic budget. Whether the university wants to commit some dollars to that, still to be determined. But right now, UCF feels good about where they're at in rev share. And like everybody else, you're always trying to find new ways to bring in money. Why, a deal like PayPal with the rest of the links certainly helps.
Mm-hmm.
UCF has identified other sponsors that are coming in to kind of help them. But, whether it's in Florida doing that, in Louisiana to take sports betting money, it's amazing how states have found ways to help their schools stay competitive, which at the same time makes you wonder how it's possible to get a federal law when every state's looking for their own best interest to make sure their teams have an advantage.
Well, I think here's what happened. Florida State went 2-10. The money became available.
Yeah. No, guys, there's no question that was part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like, hey, we got to compete. And there's no question that just like around the country, you guys have had guests on to talk about this, where every state's like, okay, we got to change this law, that law to make it easy to do this. And okay, great. And it's like, but we want a federal law. Do we? I mean, most states are like, hey, tell me what you need to make sure we have an advantage over our rivals, and we'll get it done. And it's humorous to me to look around the country to see how some of these laws are passed.
Now, Mark, if I was still a student at Florida State and this money is going to come out of my student fees, they're going to tack it on in the athletics fee, and they're going to find a way to pass it on to the students. I would probably be like, well, that's kind of BS. But since I don't go there anymore, and the only joy they bring me is when they win games, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Do what you want.
$300 a kid. $300 a pop.
Guys at UCF, that student fee has gone towards athletics for quite some time. That is not new. And people know that. It's a hot button at times. But UCF, if they haven't been number one, they're close to it as far as student fees to go towards athletics. And look, that's a debate that people have had for years. Some say, I don't go to any games. Others say, look, I want good athletic teams. It kind of helps the university. It's funny, though, how many schools have kind of followed what UCF did. Clemson for years never had a student fee. Now we got a student fee. So it's interesting how creative schools are getting, for this new rev share model. Yeah.
Mark, I was going to tell a story about when Scott Frost was at Oregon. He was recruiting the state of Texas. He was recruiting Jarrett Stidham, the five-star quarterback who ended up at Baylor, and now is in the NFL. But I was told by someone
against UCF in the bowl game.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I was told by somebody that knew Stidham really, really well that Scott Frost on a visit went to this house. He put a dip in his, he just pops a dip in his lip, was as comfortable as you could possibly be. And then obviously he did really well at UCF. Is that the Scott Frost that that he's kind of laid back and just pretty much at ease?
Yeah, even though, even though it's been some years, Scott he still has that dip, and he still has that, let's have a conversation. But Scott's admitted, like every head coach deals with guys, you can have fun, has the family and all sorts of stuff, but now it's okay, let's just get to it.
How much you want?
How much? And so forth. But yes, Scott enjoys the process of, I want to know what your goals are. Here's what we're about. Here's what we can do for you. We want to help you develop, give you all the opportunity to succeed. And we're about relationships. A lot of stuff that other coaches say, but, Scott does not hide the fact, hey, here's some dip, sit back, let's talk and, get a feel for each other. But he's also acknowledged that today it is a little bit different, where now it comes down to, how much can you pay? And right now, that may be different in 2-3 years, but right now, it is a different approach for UCF. I mean, just in our league, guys, there are schools that will pay significantly more, and have a series of guys making 7 figures. There's nobody making 7 figures at UCF. And right now, their process is different in how they slot guys in and what they pay we think this guy's a starter, true impact guy for us? Is this person someone that can develop and become a starter? Is this someone that we don't know that we need to develop? And that's different than a lot of other schools just because of where UCF is right now. 2-3 years, that may be different. They're going to go into the portal right now. And if you're a one-year guy, this has to be someone that's going to make an impact in that 1 year, not someone we hope starts. They're looking for guys that have multiple years still left in eligibility. And Scott does believe you have to still recruit some high school players. You need them to play quicker, but there's too much talent in this state to just let them leave and not go after them. So he's still the same guy as far as being laid back. It's just the business model's changed today for everybody.
One thing I want to say this, and thanks for your time, buddy. We appreciate it. With George O'Leary, of course, had the great run that ended sour when he had to resign. But UCF, since 2007, has 6 10-plus win seasons. Not a lot of people can say that. So, and I know that it was different when they were what conferences they were part of, from Conference USA to the American or whatever. But they've been pretty steady. That's not like they're not used to winning.
No, 10-win seasons, 3 major bowl games in 5 years, a number of conference championships, all while transitioning from league to league, MAC Conference, USA, American, the Big 12. And again, guys, UCF is by far the youngest Power 4 program in the country, and I mean by like decades, and still very, very young. And yet the advantage of that is you can do things a little bit different, which we certainly lean into things marketing-wise and with uniforms and with environment at the stadium, but it also bodes well for the future down the line. Remember, UCF turns out about about 25,000 graduates a year. So guys, when you get to 10 years, you're talking about 250,000 alums, and you start adding that up and you look at 30, 40 years down the line, wherever we're going in college athletics, UCF will have one of the largest alumni base in the country, based on the number of graduates they're turning out now. So wherever we're going, they're going to be a factor just by size. Now, you still got to go out there, compete, and win. And UCF, would acknowledge in the major sports in 2 years of the Big 12, they've still got to fight to gain some relevancy, that people kind of recognize, not just the history, but what they are right now. And you got to get it going in football and basketball and baseball and softball and things like that. But, the opportunities there now, they're still building a budget up to be closer towards the middle of the pack in the Big 12. But doing things with less has always been UCF's model, overcoming that and competing. And that's still going to be the case for years to come, just as they continue to ramp up their budget, grow alumni base. And, a lot of our donors, we don't got billionaire oil people. We've got younger grads that are just beginning to earn money and start businesses. So every dollar counts here as we compete with some, institutions that are 150 years old.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, Mark. See you next week.
See you guys next week. Thank you. Take care.
Mark Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics, with us on 365 Sports, and appreciate his time. We still might just grab him and bring him over for a segment, although that was pretty lengthy and very detailed. When we come back, we continue to look at a couple other things, including Alabama and their 2025 schedule. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. Dr. Rob Maxey and the partners put together a great business for you, the customer. And I know that's what every business wants to do. And yet they've done it. And what they've done is allow you to find out what an injury is, what's going on, what's happened. From youth, younger people that are playing competitive sports to even the nighttime during the week softball players. Tear an ACL, MCL, PCL, you hope it's not a blown completely everything screwed up. But Ideal MRI is going to find that out because they have state-of-the-art imaging. If it's someone like me that's kind of worn down a little bit after working out for as long as I have and running as much as I used to, what is it? Is it the lower back? Is it something else? Is there really something structurally wrong with the hip, or maybe a muscle, a ligament? They will find out. Your doctor needs to know. You let them know about Ideal MRI. They know it's worth the drive from 2 or 3 hours away because it's $497 or less, and the average MRI is $1,100. $497 or less, not like the first time, buy one, get two free. Not that's every time. at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
We will look at Alabama's schedule in a moment. This is just a quick note. Chris Hummer put together the top 25 true freshmen of the century since, of course, 2000. And who do you think was one?
I know who it was. So
okay, you already know. All right. Won a national championship. Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. These are not freshmen, but true freshmen, not redshirt freshmen. Top 5 included, I'll give it to you, Derek Stingley, the cornerback at LSU. At number 4, Luke Kuechly, the linebacker, Boston College. At number 3, Adrian Peterson from Palestine, Texas at Oklahoma. Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, Ohio State, and Trevor Lawrence, who won a national championship at Clemson, was number 1. Not bad. Only 2 true freshman starting quarterbacks to lead their team to a national championship. The other, did you read that part?
Yes, but it's been 2 days ago.
Jamel Holloway.
Oh, yeah.
1985 Oklahoma, who took over. Wasn't that the one who took over when Aikman broke his leg? I believe it was. And he eventually ended up at UCLA. All right, Craig, Alabama, let's go.
Yeah, so we've been going over schedules throughout this offseason, and this is not a season preview, just a preview of the schedule that every team's looking at and just giving our thoughts along the way. We've now arrived in the SEC, our last power conference of the 4, and yes, Alabama up first. Before we go any further, if you please hit that subscribe button, we would much appreciate that. But let's dive into Alabama, who a year ago finished 9-3 in the regular season. First year head coach coming over, the end of the Saban era, just a lot of just different feel to Alabama. And of course, there at the end, they just 2 weeks removed from getting beat by 3 touchdowns by the most lackluster Oklahoma team I've seen in 20 years. We're arguing for a playoff spot. That's where Alabama was last year at the end of the regular season with 3 losses, a bad loss to Oklahoma, and then eventually the snub and the loss in the bowl game to Michigan, the Rely Quest Bowl. So that was Alabama's 2024. Now, what does Kalen DeBoer have in store for 2025? Well, here's what they're looking at. Week number 1, Saturday, August the 30th, right out of the gates. A big game on the road against, well, how big of a game is it really? 5 years ago, it would have been a really big game.
Well, even 2.
But now, though.
God, these two have some bad blood.
Is this last year's Florida State, or is this 2 years ago's Florida State, Paul Catalina?
Is there any
3 years ago, Florida State.
3 years ago.
Is there a revenge factor for 23 with Alabama getting in?
I guess. I don't know. Like, I think their ceiling is 2022, where they started out a little rough and then they figured it out and they hit the gas and they didn't lose again until the bowl game, the Orange Bowl against Georgia a year later. So I think it's probably somewhere between there. Like, that was a 10-3 team. I think this team is probably 7-5 or 8-4 based on what they've done. All
right.
But I don't like. Of those 5 or 4, one of them is almost definitely going to be Alabama. And if it's not, then maybe we're talking about Mike Norvell, shooting the life back into this program. But I don't see any reason to think that they're not 1-0 easily.
Garrett, normally when you have a pay game, when you pay somebody to come to your place, how arrogant is it for Alabama to pay Florida State for this gimme game and then say, we'll play you in Tallahassee?
I mean, it's a flex. It's definitely a flex.
If some Florida State fan actually stumbles upon us, doesn't realize that we're trolling the hell out of Paul, they would think that we're just like the biggest haters in the world.
This dude's got to eat the dog shit. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
He's got to do it.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
He did that, and he put all of us in this. And he's the one who's got to get us out.
Wasn't there a guy that did say you would do it and did it, or was that a different bet that maybe it wasn't that?
No,
I don't know.
A guy did like a burrito, like he put a burrito
in his butt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Well, that's normal. Never mind that.
And here's the thing. Like, that's not like, that's just clean up later. You don't have to taste anything. Like, he didn't eat the burrito.
Yeah, well.
He didn't eat it?
No, he just put it in there. So
the point is that Florida State is just perplexing at the moment, and yet that's a big name, marquee game right out of the gates for Alabama at Florida State. Already announced a 2:30 ABC game on August 30th. They'll follow that up the following weekend, UL Monroe at home, and then I'm telling you, this Alabama schedule, week number 3, September 13th, another name out of the Big Ten this time, and it is Wisconsin in Tuscaloosa. That announced as an 11 a.m. kickoff on September the 13th.
It's Jake Retzloff.
Maybe doubtful, but perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. But there is their first 3 games, and they get a bye week in week number 4. So at Florida State, UL Monroe, and Wisconsin at home. They will not be lacking in some name here, but how good is Florida State? How good is Wisconsin? We'll see when the time comes.
Well, thank God that we don't know. They're not going to be all that good because the next game they have, that they better.
I get the Big Ten saying that they want 9 games, but they've got to look otherwhere. I know that there's a team at the end of their schedule that we'll make fun of, but they've got to look other places other than Alabama, because Alabama never doesn't schedule big name teams. Never.
Yep. So nice non-con there with Florida State on the road and then Wisconsin. Then they open up SEC play following a bye week after that Wisconsin game. And it will be a road trip to Athens for a mega matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs. That's how SEC play will open up. Bama, Georgia, between the hedges. It's already been announced as a night game on ABC. Saturday, September the 27th, followed by the next week, Diego Pavia, his big mouth, and the Vanderbilt Commodores in Tuscaloosa.
Team,
And I would think that there will be no lack of bulletin board, and he doesn't even have to say anything else, just based off last year. They've got plenty of bulletin board for Diego Pavia, but they will see Vanderbilt on October the 4th. Then they will travel to take on Missouri, October the 11th. Then back home for Tennessee on October the 18th. And then finally to round out the second phase as we are in this double bye week season once again, which I actually I enjoy. It breaks the season down into 3 parts. So this second part, before that final bye week, will be rounded out by a road trip at South Carolina, Lenore Sellers and Company on the road. So I tell you, man, this damn schedule looks tough as hell for Alabama. So after already playing FSU and Wisconsin in the non-con, your second phase at Georgia, Vandy at home, at Missouri, Tennessee at home, at South Carolina.
Yeah, and look, there's a very real possibility that they could stumble out of here with 3 losses among that group.
We could have hot seat talk on Kalen DeBoer by like week 8.
We could.
We could.
There's also that Kalen DeBoer could be the next
Saban.
Nick Saban baptized him, and now he's figured it out. Although
but that's the fun, is that we don't just know Alabama's this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And Nick Saban also, like, if Nick Saban had this schedule, I would say, like, even Saban would have trouble getting his team in the playoff with this schedule because of the way that the rosters work now. So, look, South Carolina should have beaten them last year. They had them dead to rights, and Bama just out-experienced them. South Carolina just kind of hyperventilated, to steal a term from Smokey there. They did that. So, look, that's gonna be the game. South Carolina, I think, in their minds, that the fans are saying,
have they arrived or not?
This is where we announce our presence to the world. And we'll see. Tennessee, we'll see, what happens there after Nico's gone, but you could go to Mizzou and lose. It's
possible.
It's not easy to win.
You can lose to Vanderbilt. They could lose to everybody on the schedule thus far, except UL Monroe. And then I know, like, somebody will say, well, they're not going to lose to Wisconsin or something. Like, you never know, though. This is post Saban. All bets are off. And even with him, sometimes there were wild cards that you never expected. That's sports. So after South Carolina on the road, the final 4-game stretch there in the month of November, after that second bye week, it'll be LSU at home on Saturday, November the 8th, all Saturday games for the Crimson Tide. Then Oklahoma at home. So back-to-back LSU, Oklahoma at home, and then a third straight home game in November as they get what I think is everybody's just big bitch with the SEC schedule, which is, best in the world, blah, 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 this and that. But then it's like, as tough as this schedule is, and look, you would want a break, and it'd be nice to have a break. But the fact they do have a break is what bothers people, because after LSU and Oklahoma, and they've had a hell of a schedule at this point, but this is the game that is your recharge, your third non-conference game that you don't play until later in the season. Eastern Illinois at home for Alabama there on November the 22nd. And then the final game to round it out, of course, you probably guessed this one. It'll be the big rivalry matchup, their Iron Bowl with Auburn, and this one on the road, Saturday, November the 29th. So part 3 of that schedule, LSU at home, Oklahoma at home, Eastern Illinois at home, and then road trip for the Iron Bowl to take on the Tigers.
Yeah, the Hugh Freeze era in this has been a big tease, because, they had him, and then a miracle happened.
Oh, that was the Milrow throw, right?
Yeah, the Milrow throw. Also, Eastern Illinois logo looks like the FCS logos that you get on the video game. Like, if your team is scheduled.
You know damn well somebody got paid like $500,000 to design that. But it does look it's kind of unique, but
yeah.
Like minor league hockey logo or something, kind of a deal. Yeah. No offense to whoever designed that's watching right now. But yeah, it definitely is newer looking, that Eastern Illinois Panther logo. So anyways, there is the part 3 of the schedule. So, man, damn, I mean, road trips to Florida State and to Georgia and to Mizzou and to South Carolina and to Auburn, and then home games with the likes of Wisconsin and Vandy and Tennessee and LSU and Oklahoma. I mean, that's pretty salty on paper, and you can almost forgive Eastern Illinois tucked there in the back half because of who they play up front. But as far as who they don't play and who they would only see in a championship scenario, whether the SEC title game or the college football playoff, no Arkansas, no Florida, no Kentucky, no Mississippi State, no Ole Miss, no Texas A&M on the schedule for Alabama. But it doesn't feel like, even if you say, oh, well, they don't play this team, it doesn't feel like they got away with a whole lot with this schedule. It feels like it's still plenty tough, even though you didn't get, necessarily every single monster you could possibly cross paths with. So, yeah, man.
Good God.
Tough uphill climb. Tough climb for Kalen DeBoer in year 2, potentially.
Here's what I do agree with Greg Sankey about when he's talking about the playoff. The strength of schedule metric should matter the most when it comes to this. The problem is that Greg Sankey is trying to put data in the metric that didn't happen in the year that the playoff committee is going to be.
Yeah, he wants to use like the last 5 years, even though that should not matter at all, or 5-10 years or whatever, and then also use the polls to some extent, whereas those are absolutely BS at times because you have a scenario that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically, where oftentimes a team loses and they fall but stay in, and the team that beats them jumps in, and all of a sudden you're like, we got 8 SEC teams in the 20. It's like, well, yeah, you did, because
I call it the bubble.
Yeah, it's because there's that bubble there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with him in a way, but I'm not totally with him on how to determine that.
I agree. It's the bubble, though. It's like a team that's unranked beats a 16th ranked team. All of a sudden, they're ranked. The team that won that was unranked is 22nd. The 16th ranked team is 20.
But compare this schedule.
Always,
yeah. No, you're right.
And one of the things about the schedule is this is when Sankey could be right.
Right.
This is a freaking tough schedule.
Well, this is when you're looking at Indiana's schedule last year and you're going like, yeah, we lost 2 more games, but look at our schedule compared to who they played, and you've got a point in a way.
But if you want to be a part of a conference, you got to accept the good that comes with it when you get the bump, but also you have to understand that the algorithm is bad. Well, you're shit out of luck.
And most of all, don't lose by 3 touchdowns to a middle-of-the-road Oklahoma team at the end of the year.
Or Vanderbilt.
And the thing about Greg Sankey is you can have a valid cause, but your methodology can be messed up. So, yes, he has a very valid point, but it would be like, all right, we need to lower taxes for everybody. You know what we should do? Let's get rid of water. And you're like, well, no. Like, if we don't have to pay on water, then everybody will have more money. Like, we need water. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Or let's get rid of taxes. Let's get rid of the people who collect them. Like, no, we still
the loss to Vanderbilt ended up being like almost like they had lost to Georgia. And they ended up 7-6, I think, at Vanderbilt. If they were 8-5, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this is rather interesting. And golly,
it's a very interesting schedule. They play some big time teams, and so I think this is it's a really salty schedule. We're just getting started with the SEC, so we'll see who else is comparative to this one. But this is definitely, we've been through 3 leagues already. And this is up there. It's not necessarily the toughest, but it's up there for sure.
Who was the Big Ten team we had just recently? We looked at their schedule and
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin, I think, has the toughest schedule.
Yeah. If, in fact, these teams were all who they normally are with Florida State and Wisconsin. I remember Alabama played Wisconsin one time in Arlington in a non-conference neutral because they used to do those neutral site games that started the season. This is a hell of a schedule.
Here's the thing. I'll make this promise. If maybe this will help. If Florida State beats Alabama, I'm not going to eat dog shit, but I'll let Garrett throw some at me. I don't care. Like whatever it takes.
Mark
it. I'll do it.
Make sure we're off that day.
I'll do it. Yeah. Hey, I'll do it.
What is worse that makes you gag? Smelling that or vomit?
Oh, vomit. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah. Just throw it at me. I mean, if he hits me. If not, he's getting one shot.
Yeah. Well, it better happen in the next few days. So when we come back, Paul Catalina, his top 5, Andrew Valade, his poll results, and more. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac. They're the people you can count on for all of your automotive needs. Whatever you're looking to get done, they can help you get that done with your vehicle. Looking to buy new, buy pre-owned, just get your vehicle worked on. They can take care of all that right now. The Red, White, and Blue Savings Event, as we are approaching July 4th. Every new or used car and truck is priced with special American size savings, so you know that they are big. And for example, right now you can save nearly $9,000 off of 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models that are in stock right now, nearly $9,000 off 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models. Those are a couple of the newer offerings. They've also got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs as well. Hundreds of them, in fact, priced to move for your upcoming summer travel. I'm telling you, it's been a clunker of a car a few years back, finally getting to something that's that was pre-owned, but that was in tip-top shape. Just the peace of mind. I mean, that alone is worth the squeeze of having to spend the money to go get something. And right now, you can save on that splurge and get that peace of mind all at the same time. So pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and 100% credit approval is their goal if that's the route that you choose. But regardless, give them a call. Visit the website, richardkarr.com, or go visit them in person, and you can check out all their various deals. They're locally owned, locally run, and they've been celebrating all year long, 26 years in the Waco area. Do business with a dealership that gives back to the local community. Deal with people you can count on at Richard Karr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into the Top 5. Hey, flagandanthem.com. I've been talking about them for months now. If you haven't bought your Flag and Anthem shirt or pants or whatever you need from them, you're missing out. All the cool kids are doing it. Use our promo code 365sports at checkout today. We continue our Big 12 transfer newcomers Top 5 with the Cyclone Edition. We go to Ames, Iowa, and Iowa State. They only brought in 8 transfers. 8. That's how good they feel about their roster, and that's how much they retained from a team that played in the Big 12 title game last year. This might be Matt Campbell's deepest team ever. I am not kidding. But when expectations find the Cyclones usually find a way to maybe not meet them. I think that might end this year. Let's start at wide receiver. Number 5, Xavier Townsend. Really important because they lost both their top wide receivers, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, are both in Houston with Xavier Hutchinson, one of their other old teammates. They love Iowa State receivers down in H-Town. Xavier Townsend, really athletic player, comes in from UCF, and Gus Malzahn's offense should add some electricity to that Cyclone passing game. Number 4, Derek Jensen, offensive tackle, came from Wisconsin. They do pretty good finding the big hogs up there in Madison. He steps in, will do a huge job protecting Rocco Beck this year. Big guy, young, hasn't even hit his potential yet. This one is maybe more of a long-term fix for them, but maybe one of the more talented guys that they brought in this year. Number 3 of only 8, Tamatoa McDonough, defensive end, comes in from BYU. Good player, strong player. Really good at getting after the passer. Hasn't hit this stride yet, but in that Iowa State defense should do really, really well. Number 2, cornerback Trey Bell. Yet another player from Lindenwood. This is the second one we've mentioned on this list. Highly sought after, jumping up a level. They've done really well with this with Matt Campbell. He knows how to scout the lower levels because he coached at all of them over the years. Trey Bell should step in and do really well. They really grow underrated defensive backs at Iowa State well. And Trey Bell steps in with a whole lot of potential, untapped. Again, was playing at the FCS level. Now he steps up and has a chance at the Big 12. And finally, number 1 from East Carolina, wide receiver Chase Sowell. Pretty much like if you were saying like, hey, who does he comp to? Jaden Higgins. They lost Jaden Higgins. They went and found a guy who's built a lot like him, who runs routes like him, who can get in the end zone and score touchdowns like him. Really good red zone threat. Should be great with Rocco Beck. This was their number 1 need, and they filled it. Only 8 players they took in the transfer portal. I think that means you're probably set up for a pretty good year, Cyclone fans. We've got polls. Andrew Valet did all the hard work. If you don't listen to him, you're disrespecting my man Andrew, and I will come for you. Smokey, make sure that people stay and listen.
All right, here are the 2 polls and the results. Is that my eyes, my contacts, or that screen? That looks extremely blurry.
I think it's just the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Based on ESPN's top 4 sleeper picks, who will have the 2025, the biggest breakout as a star? And, this is very evenly spread. Very nice. Tyler Brown, wide receiver Clemson, ahead of Nick Dawkins, the center at Penn State. Jack Endress, the tight end, right below him. And then there's Bo Walker, the running back, at a school that produces nothing but running backs, and yet they go get another one, a running back 22%. That's as even a poll as I think we've seen with 4 different voted.
I picked Jack Endress because tell me everything you knew about Gunnar Helm before last year.
Yeah, he had time.
Other than his name was Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, but
He's from Colorado originally.
Yeah. Helm was an issue, big son of a bitch, too. I'm telling you, he was really good. Then he kind of have a game or two where he didn't catch passes, but still effective in what he did.
But yeah, so I think that's going to be a nice little pickup for Texas. I think they do really well with that position, tight end.
Number 2 poll. Which team are you most excited to watch with NFL or NHL players back in 2026?
In the Olympics.
I think we might have a majority American audience, guys.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I'm going with Serbia.
They're
not an option. So,
but
Team USA with nearly that's the most dominant number of we had probably the most evenly broken down into of the 4 option. This is the most dominant one I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously very much talking to an American audience, but I do think that some of the 4 nations last year pumped some juice into the American fandom about international play. So I think there's a little bit of patriotism here as well, and some legitimate excitement that Team USA is actually pretty for real and can actually compete the way that you wish the soccer teams could compete internationally. That 4 nations was awesome. I know this isn't, the same thing being the Olympics, but watching Team USA with the guys you got to familiarize yourself if you weren't familiarized already with during 4 nations, I think does provide a nice little lead into the Olympics and some people getting pumped about Team USA's chances to make some noise.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't ever have delusions of grandeur that the U.S. men's national team is going to win the World Cup. But if they did, I just hope they do it before England does it again, because I want to see how that country reacts.
That would be like beating Canada in the 4 nations final, right? That would be
just. I have nothing.
Which we as Americans celebrated a little bit too early. Just a little bit too early, but Yeah, that would be the equivalent of it, I think.
I think, because I don't have anything against England, but I mean, they haven't won the World Cup since 1966, and it drives them insane. Like, there is nothing like that unifies Brits more than the fact that if I just went into a pub anywhere in Britain and I was just like, "Hey, mates, since 1966, it's bollocks, right?" And they'd be like, "Yeah," every single one of them.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a drought. So I think Team USA is got some juice to them and much farther along than the soccer team for sure.
Yeah, what was the breakdown, Garrett, of National Hockey League teams, players when it comes to countries?
Like, what do you mean?
What? It's a legitimate question.
Like, no.
Who has the
What's
most?
the question?
Huh?
What's the question?
Who has the most the nationalities or countries represented within the NHL?
I mean, it's probably those four right there.
Is Canada ahead of the United States? I would think so.
Canada
right?
is probably number one. U.S. is catching up at number two. Sorry, I got the stuff in my mouth. But
well, you had a tooth pull.
Two.
Yeah.
You're
playing with pain today, by the way.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Andrew, with 2 polls. Every show, the results at the end of the show following Paul's top 5. Thanks to Emery Winter. He's working, editing, dialing up, and paying attention tonight to 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. And thanks to Josh Young and that's company and the KWTX CW combination for putting us up every weeknight. Also, for Craig and Paul, our sponsors, for those of you watching today, we appreciate you. Back tomorrow, 365 Sports tonight. Have a great night.